Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today. Recorded live by a studio audience, it's time for Midnight's Edge in the morning. So if it looks like crap, it's your fault.
He's back.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I did. Well, no thanks to my city, but yes. They had managed to have blocked off my road in the matter of minutes from the time I left to the time I headed back.
Why?
They're doing something.
Oh.
They just somehow managed to, like, it was like as soon as I went through that street, they must have come out, like, you know, in those movies where they rebuild the whole town real quick. So it was like, because like by the time I come back, they already had all this crap out and I couldn't go. I had to go all the way back around. Anyway, I'm here.
By funny coincidence, my street was blocked off today too because they were doing some filming. So when
what were they shooting?
Some local TV series. I was hoping it would be something more exciting because they film a ton. Because for those that do not know, I'm a Norwegian in exile in the outer rim of the Canary Islands, and they do a ton of filming here. Wow. I mean, they filmed the Eternals here. They filmed a bunch of, like, when you look for them, some.
Wasn't Henry Cavill just there? You said.
Yes, Henry Cavill. Yeah, I saw Henry Cavill in the street. They were filming his next movie that's coming out next year. So I saw him in the street here like a few months back. And they filmed Rambo here. You can actually see my house in that. And so, yeah. And they were filming something. I think this was some local production. And they had all packed up and gone by the time I came back from shopping earlier. So, yeah, no cool cameo this time. But yeah, so it was closed off too, but I know exactly why, unlike you.
So how about that stock market?
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. We can get
good morning,
into that.
Andre. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. And so good to see everyone here. So yeah, I'm good.
We also have the bearded man himself, Paul Chato.
Well, I'm internally bearded. Just like some people have internal testicles. I have internal beard.
And our next female Olympic champion of boxing, Culture Casino.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. You fooled me. You fooled me with the bearded thing. but
I was ready for it.
Thanks for it. You were. I wasn't.
He was on the ball.
Well, you know what? Neither were those other women in the Olympics.
No.
Well, and there's more on that. And we may actually get to that today if we have time and we go over to Rumble. So we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But good morning, everybody out there in the chat. I know we had some super chats before the show started, so we're going to get to those before we get into anything else. Let's just say hello to everybody real quick. I see we got D-Bud Martin swinging the wrench around. Watch out. Sometimes he does not look before swinging. We got B-Man in the chat. Cynthia Carter's here. Hyper Guyver's in the house. How you been? We got One Punch Man Token Fan. We got Don CK. Ham Dinger is here. The lovely Sherry's in the house. How you doing? And we also have Moses A. Weaver. We have X Morbius. We have Danny TV. Jill Powers is here. Thank you for being a member as well. See, I love seeing so much green. Speaking of members, we got to do a member stream soon, Andre.
Yeah, we do next week.
And as Shotgun Fringe says, it's Cowabunga time. I wish. Speaking of Cowabunga, though, you guys got to see something that Yellow Flash sent me. This is awesome. I'm not really into like them being all graded and in a plastic thing, but I think this is one I can make an exception for.
Oh, okay, yeah. You make an exception for that one. rated 9.6. Hell yeah, that stays right where it is.
Now,
That's
this is
beautiful.
the Archie comics, so this isn't the old original comics, but yeah. Eastman
Still.
and Laird did do the cover, though, it looks like.
Yeah, very nice.
So for those who don't know what this series was, this came out after the TV show, and it literally started with like 3 or 4 adaptations of the show, and then they went and did their own thing, and it went crazy. Like at one point, the turtles are traveling through space and stuff in a cow's head.
Wow.
The Turtles comics were always weird, and it's all downhill
Yes.
from there. Or
Yes.
depending on how much you
That's
like
kind of
it.
when the Turtles usually lose me. And I know that's weird to say about something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but every time they go cosmic, that's kind of when I check out.
Okay, yeah. I should say that the concept of Ninja Turtles, that's a normal part. That's as normal as it gets.
Sometimes, yes, you're right. I mean, and the weird thing is Shredder's actually made up of worms now, since they had to bring him back to life. He's like alien worms.
The fuck?
That's true. That's in the comics. Anyway, you were saying something, Paul. Sorry.
I was just going to say that comedy in comics rarely worked. There was all sorts of characters like Buckethead and stuff like that they tried. When Ninja Turtles works is that they actually are superheroes. They're not constant fuck ups or goof ups. Sorry for the balloons.
I like the balloons.
I know that's a hand.
It goes with your analogy there.
Thank you. And that's why it worked. And it was an accidental comedy. I mean, we all know how it started, right? It was kind of a goof and then it took off.
Yeah.
And those are the best, right? I mean, the audience finds what they themselves think is funny as opposed to something that is forced on the audience and then the audience just doesn't accept it.
And the story plays it straight. It's the absurdity of the idea.
That's the key. When Turtles works, everyone plays it straight because it doesn't need gags. It's Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Which is why I didn't like the new one, because they just tried to stuff it with too much weirdness. It's like the Turtles are already weird. You don't need to go over top. You know?
It's in our business, it's called gilding the lily.
That sounds very pornographic.
It did, yeah. As long as you have a lily to gild, I would say yes.
Yeah,
it sounds kind of romantically pornographic, though. If those two things can.
Yeah, well, the people who don't get it, I mean, again, the first Incredibles, all the superheroes played it straight, right?
Pretty much.
That's what
I mean, yeah, you're like in comics, like the comedy only seems to work in like short little like Garfield or those kind of comics. But anyway, we're off the beaten path. Let's get on to the show.
I do that all the time, but
that's all right. I do the same thing, and that's a bad combination. Ruby Hoove sent in a member chat for 2 months. Thank you for that, Ruby Hoove. We appreciate the support here, and gifted a membership. Thank you for that, and hopefully the lucky recipient will appreciate it. Packing Proton sends in $5. How you doing this morning? Is that Clevant Derricks in the main image from Sliders? Looks like him. No, it's actually what's his face?
Jonathan
Kang.
Majors is his face. But
yeah,
yes,
it's an older
I
picture of
agree
Kang. That's probably why.
Yeah, but I can see the similarity.
Yeah, I think that was an image from Loki, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So I could see where you're a little confused because it doesn't look like the standard Loki or Kang that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, the one whom we shall never speak about again, according to Disney. But we will.
Yeah, did you see Feige dodge that question?
No,
I did not.
I'll bring that up here in a minute if you want to go ahead and read this.
Yeah, we'll bring it up when we get to it. Coach O'Dragon. Oh, this is a fun one. The stocks at Disney are down, but everyone is affected by reaction of Japan market, despite 2 shower Bob upcoming earnings call Wednesday. Yeah, I haven't been able to pay too much attention to the stock market today. I only caught a glimpse when I was, because I've been out, I've been busy today. I was only like when I was researching, doing the show notes, I said, oh, okay, something is seriously going on. So I take it there's been a major Japanese market crash and that's bringing the West down. Is that's what's going on? Culture, can we have your preliminary analysis so I can have it too before I get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. The Nikkei took a major hit in response to the major hit that Wall Street has been taking. So it's very, very circular. I was honestly not surprised with everything that happened, but the Nikkei index took a 12.4% dump.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the only thing that led this was basically loss of confidence because of Wall Street? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, there are several things. I mean, Japan's made some major moves that people are claiming are causing this, but this is the second largest drop in a single day in terms of the Nikkei. So 4,400 points all at once, 4,451.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really hasn't been doing well. Friday it didn't do well. This is the worst ever 2-day decline they've ever had between Friday and Monday. So yeah, 18% fall overall is no bueno. So,
that is no bueno at all.
Yeah.
No, because the only thing that I had time to see of this before the show is that I saw on X that the major trading companies, the ones that you as a retail customer, if you want to do shares, the ones that you would go to, and they would do brokerage stuff like that for you. Those people apparently aren't letting retail customers redeem their shares and exit the market. Not until all of the big institutional ones have left first. I don't know how accurate that is. It is something I saw on X. Maybe needs a community note, but that would be bad if there is any kind of truth to that whatsoever. So if we have anyone in the chat who has tried to sell their shares and whatever and been told no, not now by their broker, do let me know, because that would be very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, they're just trying to blame everything on Japan because they raised their interest rate on Wednesday.
Oh,
so which they haven't done, in a while, at least not from my memory. So yeah, it didn't look particularly good.
Well, I can tell you right away, that's not the reason. That may be one triggering factor, but that's not the reason for the fall of the US.
Well, you have a collapsing jobs market in the US, that caused sell-off here. I mean, that's cyclical. You're seeing these markets react to all of this downward pressure from all this bad news. And I mean, again, we're not giving you stock advice, folks. We're just
not at all. We are just discussing what happened.
And it looks pretty clear that from the financial side of things that there's a lot of the optimism is gone from the markets. Let's just say it that way. So
Neil is checking it out in the chat. Hey Neil, and yeah, he's obviously not too impressed with what's been going on either. I'm not.
All I know is basically a woman's been pretty much running the country for about a week, and everything's already gone to hell.
Well, I mean, the Dow fell 860 points. I mean, that's not good.
Depending on which position you have, no, that's not good. It's tremendously good.
Because I mean,
it was coming, but
let's be real. Like, a lot of this instability started when, right after that debate. It's been a downward spiral since then. From what I've noticed, this was kind of a long time coming. But you had a bunch of stuff pop off this weekend, and everything come to a head. To where, I mean, I don't want to get into the stuff that's going on in the UK, but I'm assuming you're saying that kind of stuff is affecting this too culture. Because, I mean,
yeah, it's all kinds of bad news, and the fact that they've been reporting jobs numbers and then revising them down later, that pattern has continued for quite some time.
And that is something that the Biden administration has always done, by the way. I mean,
yeah, and
drives me nuts. But
it's a broader concern because even Bitcoin kind of tanked. The price of gold is down 1%. I mean, and that's obviously a physical thing that you can hold. So across the board, it's not looking very good financially in any of the financial markets. And look, it's been the interest rates have been too high for too long in the United States because they were trying to stem the inflation they created by printing a bunch of money. They also are giving away free money to people who are perhaps not here in in a normal process way, And they're getting money just to spend in the economy, which is artificially keeping inflation high. So you've got all of these things that are working against themselves and in the interest of like social policy, which is affecting the markets negatively. Because guess what? In a market system, you can't do that. You can't do socialism, communism, or any of the other isms. You just can't. The only ism that's safe is capitalism.
Yeah, what I see, and this is like why I'm not surprised. Like, we're not going to spend too much time on this. We're about to move on here, but what I've been seeing is for the past 4 years in particular, it's been a little longer than that, but the past 4 years in particular, the financial mismanagement I have seen has been immense and something I would never have imagined by someone that didn't want to engineer a collapse, basically. With a kind of rampant mismanagement and just printing of dollar bills that we have seen. And it's not just the US, because several other European banks have done exactly the same thing. My own country has done exactly the same thing with my own government, and the less I say about them, the better. Has done literally exactly the same thing, and that's why my currency is also down the drain right now, which wasn't always the case because of inflation, because there's just too much currency, because you printed too much, because that's how you generate.
Did you know whose currency has stabilized?
Well, I'm sure there's quite a few out there who has, but I don't know which one in particular.
Argentina.
Well, yeah, but that comes surprise me. This does not surprise me. Also, the Russian ruble, from what I understand, is also not doing too bad. But Argentina, I'm not surprised by.
Yeah, Milei has done a great job.
Really aggressive, and it can be fixed.
Yeah. Milei has done a great job eliminating a lot of make work things and programs that didn't need to exist, and just frivolous government spending. And all of a sudden, poof! Hey, he Elon'd his country back into shape. Yeah. There you go. We need to do that.
Bogdan Florin sends in £5 and says, "I'm sorry, but Disney can go duck itself for what they did to Star Wars. Until KK is publicly fired, I won't watch anything Disney while paying money." Well, she's never going to be publicly fired. At best, she'll get or at worst, I should say, she'll get a retirement, and that's about it.
Although she should be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally.
If they wanted, if Disney wanted to win back some confidence, some public confidence, this is one occasion where you actually do bring out the tar and feather.
Well, she's getting to that point where we get a few more successful Marvel movies, and I don't think she'll be the most successful producer of all time anymore. I mean, I could be wrong.
I got a little bit of bile coming up in my throat the other day when I rewatched Back to the Future 1, and I saw her name in the credits.
I mean, it's pretty obvious with Twister's success who the real talent was behind that power couple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure that one out.
Well, let's just say
it's me, isn't it? Right?
And let's be honest, Frank. She was nothing more than your muse, wasn't she?
Yeah. What the hell's a muse?
Yeah. Well, the audience knows what the muse is.
She was not very amusing, if that's what you meant. She come up with stupid ideas, and she really sucked at taking notes. And honestly, she wasn't even that good at getting coffee.
Is Frank a Southerner?
I am now. Congo.
That's the trick we used to do.
Twisters 3 coming soon. Don't forget.
Yeah, non-American comedy groups, if they want to do an American, we don't like this. We talk like this if we're going to try to do an American accent, or we do something from the South. That's usually our lazy way of pretending we're American.
Yeah, and it sounds awful.
Honestly, I've heard
a good Southern accent.
I've heard Frank talk.
And Texas accent there, Coachy. I spent a lot of time in Texas because I had clients in Texas, and every time I came home from spending time in Texas, I came home sounding like this, Ross Perot.
I've actually listened to Frank talk. He doesn't sound anything like that, of course, but it was just the character I came up with because we were picturing he would be this old school cocaine snorting producer, basically, who just loved crazy ideas. And if you look at his movies, it kind of matches. I mean, this is a guy who his big movie that he directed was Arachnophobia in Congo. But I mean, he was there for all the Steven Spielberg films, and he was the second unit director on Roger
Back to the
Rabbit.
Future.
Yep.
He was there. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Listen. I might die before she leaves. Who knows? I'm not betting on anything. I'm not.
Let's not bet on that because that's tempting fate. So, yeah. Instead,
the beauty of it is, I think she might be older than you, but I'm not 100% on that.
I do look better than her.
This is very true. You do not look your age, sir. For a white man, for a white boy of your age, you do not look it. That is the honest to gosh truth. Lost for Words has been a member for 31 months. That's almost as long as you've been here.
Yeah. Hey.
John Doe's has been a member for 7 and says enjoyed both Snakes on a Plane and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which both played the story straight and let the premise be the well, you kind of have to. That's how comedy works. And it's funny. We might actually talk about comedy today. You never know. I don't know if Andre brought that up to you before the show or not.
We did. We just almost so the main things, and then we'll see what else we have time to get there. So,
and then Bogdan Florian sends in another £5 and says, I'm a paying customer. Why the heck do I feel bad for not wanting to see a Black Samurai in an AC game set in Japan? Does this make me a bad person? No, it doesn't. It just makes you a logical person.
It also makes you a discerning customer, which is a good thing because that's what companies need to keep some minimum standards of quality. So yeah. And you forgot one objective there. He's not just a black samurai; he's also a gay black samurai.
Whoa! STR Red Wolf sends in $5. Says, economic news aside, did you hear Deadpool and Wolverine passed the Passion of the Christ in the box office sales for R-rated movies? Wow. That's right. Deadpool is now Marvel Jesus.
Wow. Indeed.
There you go.
That's a good segue, actually.
Transition to the box office.
Great segue.
Great segue. So we got our little bumper here.
Yeah. Ooh, pillow bumper.
And this is where culture comes to shine, because culture, we had a heck of a box office fight this weekend. So where did Deadpool and Wolverine end up? What was the percentage of the fall? Let's see.
Only 54%.
Wow. Well, I was part of that 54. Well, the other side of that 54%.
Is that domestic?
Yeah.
Yes, this is domestic. We only have this kind of detail. We only have domestically. And I got to say 50%. That's really good. Wouldn't you say, Cultured?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is actually one of the better percentages you could have hoped for a Marvel film, because normally, you're looking at the 60s, like 64%. If I'm not mistaken, I think
on the good end for stuff like the Avengers, if I'm not mistaken. Doctor Strange Mom, I think, fell 64%. So this is a very, very good number. 97 million in gross brings the domestic total almost to 400 million.
Wow.
That's a good weekend. They're really chugging this out. We're looking at over $800 million. In fact, we can look at the detailed numbers if we just click right here. And you can see at 824 million worldwide for the weekend, with some markets a little underestimated and not reporting. But I have a feeling that by Wednesday, this will be at $1 billion. Which will be just dandy.
Which I'm on record as predicting.
I know.
Tom.
Look, I'll take the heat for the fact that I still thought this was going to be a 975 million top.
$5, Paul. We said this was going to be bigger than big.
Yeah, but the question is it going to leg out Inside Out 2? I mean, let's just be fair. But you're looking at an international box office that is a little flatter than you would hope for, because once again, the international numbers under a normal situation, or what had become normal, is almost twice as much as the domestic. Yeah. So it's like they're lagging behind it. There's no reason for that. I mean, if you look at the international markets, if it pops up, there we go. Sorry, I have it go to a dark background. But Australia is doing great, 24 million so far. China is surprisingly high. Mexico is doing very well. I mean, these numbers are good, but are there markets that didn't release in yet, or at least ones that haven't reported? And I mean, you have Bulgaria.
And it's already outgrossed the first two, right?
Costa Rica, yeah. Costa Rica, South Africa. Those are the only three markets that I think haven't reported anything.
UK would have been higher if they weren't torching the streets.
Yeah, I think the UK would be doing a lot better if there wasn't some unrest happening there right now. But you know, these are the top 10 territories. Brazil's loving this film. Germany's loving this film. India's even loving this film, which is surprising. France has got the Olympics going on right now. So, you know,
And they
I guess
rather see this movie, and I don't blame them.
yeah, well, yeah. Real quick sidebar. Did you see that they were giving away discount tickets for Olympic events to fill the stadiums?
Yeah,
'Cause
like
they were
female
empty.
boxing.
Well,
Sorry,
I mean-
female basketball.
Yeah, it was like they were giving away $10 tickets to just go to some of these things because people are like, no, thanks. Anyway, just thought that was an interesting aside. But you can see we're well in the cone of happiness. We are not below, but below there in the trough of sadness.
So what number makes them happy? Like $1 billion, and they're thrilled, and they don't really need. I mean, obviously, you always want the most.
I can answer that. In this particular case, at 1 billion, Disney is relieved. That is going to be their internal success threshold.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything less than 1 billion, they're going to be disappointed for this movie, because this is one they expected to make money. At the moment it crosses 1 billion, then everything is good. It's actually going to make some money for them.
Yeah.
And then they'll be happier and happier the more it makes beyond that billion.
Well,
But I'm guaranteeing 1 billion, that was their internal expectation for this.
and
Any
this
dollar
is
short of that is disappointing.
right. Well, and then add to that the cumulative box office for Disney this year since the beginning of 2024, which just crossed the threshold of 4 billion. So
I still want to know the budget of this, because I'm not so sure they're expecting $1 billion because they let it go R-rated. Can you bring up and compare it to Deadpool 2 and Logan?
that you weren't here for that. Comparisons right now on the numbers, they won't let you do because of the bot activity. Sorry. Yeah, well, I can't help it. But
It is.
I mean,
Basically, it has blown past both Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2. And I did see an early projection of what it was expected to leg out at. Of course, this is just a projection, only time will tell. But according to the Hollywood Reporter, their projection was that it would top out at 1.2 billion. So they think that it has roughly 300 million more from where it is right now to go. So it is obviously going to cross 1 billion. Question is how much further. I would like for it to be the biggest movie of the year, and take that.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be still, and that was my bet with Mr. H, and I stand by it. I think it's still going to beat Inside Out 2 because it's a R-rated film that's playing like a 4-quadrant movie. And it's already ahead of where Inside Out 2 was at this point, from my understanding. And I've seen a lot of families going to see this movie. When I went to see it again Saturday, it was nothing but a bunch of families. Like, can't believe how many people took their kids to this thing, but hey.
This is a movie that I actually might go see for a third time.
Wow.
And I never see movies twice even.
Well, I might too, Andre, if I can come up with the cash, because here's a little side note, and I'm pissed off at Google. I did not know I could have seen this movie in IMAX 3D for the last 2 weeks. Because for some reason, since I have an AMC that's technically closer to me than the big AMC that has the IMAX, they've only been giving me the show times for the local AMC and giving me the alternative or the other theaters times. And that's why I went and seen it in another theater in 3D last week for the premiere. And just standard 3D. So I was pissed. Now, I could have seen it in the last 2 weeks, and I didn't know it because of Google not telling me.
Well, that was nice of them.
So yeah, there's a whole nother theater that was showing it in the big city nearby that I had no idea.
So this was yet another case of Google being selective with the
Yep.
kind of information they choose to display to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, they showed me the competitor, not AMC.
Been a lot of that lately.
Yep. So, and that's why I ended up going to the closer AMC instead, because I didn't want to go to the other theater because there was no special thing about it. But anyway, that being said, I'm glad to see it's doing well. I went to see it again. I know you've seen it twice. I don't know how many times you gentlemen have seen it, but I enjoyed it more on the second viewing. And then I watched part 2 last night, and that took a huge down step from where it already was for me compared to this movie and the first movie. Like, oh my God.
That
movie's
kid
bad.
is just going to make that.
Well, it's not just a kid anymore. Like watching it is just a bad movie overall. The whole plot is forced, and it just, anyway,
the director was right. They had the wrong choice for cable.
That too.
Should have gone with the director's choice.
Considering how entertaining part 3 was, it was like just watching those two back, like that, the day after the other. It was just a big, clear difference. Because I watched the first film before I went to see 3, and then I watched part 2 yesterday when I was laying up dying, and that didn't help.
Yeah.
But Twisters is hanging in there, but that's coming out on digital already. I hear Culture.
Yeah, it's going to be out pretty quick, indeed, and it did really well. I mean, 22.6 million 3 weeks in, not bad. Again, Americans love disaster films. We're looking at almost 200 million domestic revenue. Global, let's punch in, take a look. You're not really getting a lot of international love. You're at 274 million. So I'm going to tell you right now, this thing is still losing money. So it could get to profitability, and digital sales may help it get there. But, unless this legs it out another 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know. I have a feeling that by going digital early, it's really going to hurt its chances. International box office, well, let's look as it converts to dark. UK, 10 million, Mexico, 9, Australia. You kind of see that this is a consistent pattern for films, right? Just the percentage of fall off from country to country and what the major markets are for each film. China had zero interest in this. Spain, not so much. So, I mean, even Thailand is in there. You got some issues.
So do you think it's kind of a mistake for them to drop Twisters on streaming already? I think it is. I think they're going a little too soon.
I'm with you 1,000%. I mean, there's one market it hasn't released in yet in Japan, but I have a feeling that this film is, it maybe just if it's lucky going to break even. Depends on the percentage.
I think Hollywood should set up ESL all over the non-speaking world just to increase movie sales.
Sure, that makes sense.
All these foreigners not speaking our language is like a real downer.
Yeah, but most people don't mind reading subtitles. Europeans have that's a normal thing.
Well, that depends on where in Europe you are, because unfortunately I'm trapped in dubbing land right now and no one here speaks English. That's actually like if you want to know where they speak English in the world, that's the places where they don't dub their movies. Subtitle land in Europe, that's where they speak English. Or where we speak English, since I'm from subtitle land.
Well, and then we also had Trap open up, which that's the new M. Night movie, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep, that's the Shamalama Ding Dong. And of course, it's predictable as ever and only holds up for about 30 minutes before it falls off, reportedly. So, yeah.
The bigger surprise, I guess, would be that Long Legs movie, because that's got some long legs, evidently, and people are talking about it.
It does. It's not in that many theaters. It's doing very well. It's the biggest one coming out of, I guess, A24's companion studio, Neon. And 66 million domestic. That's really, really good for this film. And Nick Cage. So a lot of people are stoked about that one. I'm just happy that Despicable Me is hanging in there at 313 million, running about half what Inside Out did. Inside
that
Out
kind of fell off a bit more than I thought it would.
Inside Out fell off too.
Yeah,
well that's just domestic. The 626 is domestic, right?
Yeah.
So and again, $1 billion.
Yeah.
I really think Deadpool
well
and
over $1
Wolverine
billion.
is sucking the air out of the room. I think
Well,
this
I
is
mean,
one of the exceptions that parents are making and allowing kids to see this, especially if they've seen the first two. This one's actually tame in comparison.
Okay.
Well,
Look,
there's no tits and stuff like that in this.
well, there's way more violence and gore. But regardless, I'm not going to fight you on that. What I am going to say is this: I think the release cycle had Despicable Me 4 come out first before Inside Out 2. We'd be looking at an entirely different box office. So there's that.
Yeah, and then otherwise, Bad Boys is still hanging in there, even though it's been on streaming or VOD, I should say, for a couple weeks. Now, the thing with Twisters, it makes you wonder, because Universal has the domestic one on this one, because they flip-flopped from the first movie. Doesn't Universal have a streaming deal with like Netflix or Amazon? I can't remember which.
I'm trying to think who has those deals. I know that
I think they have like a 60-day window or something like for Amazon.
Yeah,
and then they flip it over to...
I think the pay one window is with Amazon or Netflix or somebody. It's with somebody, but
Valiant knows.
Yeah, he does VR.
And he's not here.
He's not here. No, and yeah, so. But what's really crazy about all of this is that Disney's Inside Out 2 is what's kind of going to get them this, and Deadpool and Wolverine's going to get them back on track.
Well, just to finish on Twister, I brought that up because then that means that whatever, they'll probably make up their money on the back end from that streaming sale is what my point was.
Yeah. But this film overperformed, and because it didn't have an obvious message in it, it didn't suffer from people talking about it being a political film. It's amazing when you try to just offer entertainment.
And what did it do this last weekend? I didn't catch that.
Oh, sorry. I was just showing off the 1.5 billion. Because
I was going to say, yeah, it seems like it's kind of just stopped.
Petering out. Yeah, it's petered out.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, so 6 million.
So it only did 6, okay.
Yeah. I have a feeling that it's going to...
I got a bet to win, sir, okay? I'm really kind of worried about that.
But I'm looking at... Okay, I don't know that you need to worry all that much. I think Deadpool and Wolverine is going to get you your 60.
It's got to play good for another 2-3 weeks yet. So
yeah, I think you got 3 to 4 more weeks of legs. I think you're good.
Anything stand out to Paul or you, Andre, on the box office before we move on here?
I would have liked to have seen the Fighting Squad do better, but I suppose it was relatively low budget. It's a specialty, a limited release, so I guess those are fairly good numbers for it. Beyond that, I'm just very happy to see Deadpool Wolverine do as well as it does. I hope it continues to kill it. I understand, of course, everyone that really hates Disney so much you can't support the company. That is fine. All the more power to you. But I'm glad to see this movie perform, because as we're about to see here, Marvel are trying to turn things around, and a success like this is basically just showing them the way.
I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, if they have 2 films with no messaging in them do well, there you go. You bought 10,000 tickets. Wow, Six.
Well, someone won the lottery.
How many theaters is that?
Or someone followed the Pelosi tracker on the stock exchange. I could
also. Yeah, but yeah. So we'll have to see how this pans out for Deadpool and Wolverine. It's doing pretty good so far. But we got some other stuff to discuss. Let's see what you guys are saying real quick. We got Connor Dorian sending in 20 smackaroos. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat. It says, did you see the Coming to Max video for TV shows coming to streaming service Max and HBO for this year and next year with the official title for the It prequel TV series now called It Welcome to Derry? I don't think I did, but I think I was aware that was the title of the show. And I wish I could be more excited for it, but...
Yeah, well...
What'd you say?
No, I was just, I was aware that it was coming, and okay, so it went through a title change. These things happen. Let's hope that it's decent. Although I myself am not too excited about it either.
Yeah, Tim Curry he's Pennywise for me. I didn't get into the Skarsgård kid playing the role. Yeah, but I'll probably check it out eventually. Mr. Tickletron gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for that. Dash Attack sends in $4.99 and says, saw Deadpool and Wolverine twice, once with my cousin and once with my dad. The Return of Snipes as Blade, sorry, not Spies. Snipes as Blade made the movie for me too. Many good jokes and moments. Oh yeah.
That was so awesome when he showed up, and I was able to avoid spoilers. I had no idea it was coming. Such a great surprise for those that were able to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, it was nice because the individual I went to see the movie with had totally forgot that Chris Evans had played another MCU Marvel character.
That was a nice twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
It was
caught
spoiled
off
for
guard.
me, but like it was good to see it through somebody else's eyes who hadn't had it
Yeah.
completely spoiled.
I'm a huge fan of the very first Fox Fantastic Four movie because it was as shitty as the comics were.
Yeah, it's probably the second best Fantastic Four movie.
It was fun. One of the things that the Wesley Snipes thing reveals, I'm doing a video on it because the audience screamed when they saw Wesley, is that ironically, this collection of woke filmmakers just don't understand the concept of simplicity and even lazy. Like, that was what, partly was fun of old Hollywood, is that they were lazy. Oh yeah, okay, Wesley, you're doing 10 of these.
Well, and it wasn't even that the cameo was just a cameo, right? He actually played into the movie and he had some great moments.
No, but I'm just saying that his mere
Yeah, no.
appearance, like, and this
But
is
that's what I'm saying. It could have just been that, but yeah.
Disney making it so difficult to make a B-level movie.
Just if they're smart after this, and if Marasha Ali has walked, they should be knocking on Snipes' door right now with a big ass bag of cash.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they are, and I think that he definitely has walked, because otherwise,
well, that's what I had heard.
No way that would.
And I was right about another individual, right, that we're going to talk about today. So.
Yeah, I would just say there was only one thing that I thought was disappointing. Well, not disappointing, but like they name dropped the Punisher, and I'm like,
did they
had Dolph Lundgren come?
I know, right?
Punisher? How awesome would that not have been?
Oh, I would have lost my shit if that would have been, because that's my favorite Punisher.
I mean, he's not my favorite Punisher, but he's the one I would have liked to see cameo here.
Right. Well, especially when they're like, which one?
Yeah.
There's been 5 or whatever.
Well, then I had to stop and think. There's only been 4.
Cavill would have made a better Cable.
Anybody would have made a better Cable. Let's be honest. That was one of the worst miscasts in history. Yeah. Everybody was saying it from the start. Is like, what are you doing? It should have been Stephen Lang anyway. That's who everybody wanted. The guy from Avatar.
And he was never in the
run. It's got to be someone over 6 feet.
Well, and I don't know if Stephen Lang is or not, but yeah, you watch those. That was one thing too I noticed a lot last night watching Deadpool 2 is like, when he's as tall as Domino.
Yeah.
And Deadpool like towers over him like by like a foot.
Yeah, no, that was no. Oh, I love Domino and I love Peter. So there's some things to salvage out of that second movie.
And Juggernaut. Let's not forget.
Oh, Juggernaut was good. Yeah, that
how
was
he
good.
died. Well, the second movie, like, look, I like the opening and I like the end credits bits, and all the crap in between. I could just.
It was
toss.
Okay. It was.
I hate it, and I hate it more now after watching it last night.
It's a fine time waster compared to anything else that Disney has done.
I mean, is it better than the Marvels? Yes.
Yes.
Is it better than Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, to be clear? Not the Tobey one, but the other one? Yes. Is it better than a lot of the other crap? Yes. But
is it better than Venom 2? Yes.
It's on that level for me.
Yeah, I would also say they're above the same level.
Okay.
Those are 2 movies I would never.
Because there's actually bits in Venom 2 I liked. I actually come out of that. I expected to hate Venom 2 or dislike it. And I come out of it going, you know what? That wasn't even, it's kind of like the first movie. It was like, wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Especially the scene that I liked the most was the scene that everybody was making a big deal about until we actually saw it and how funny it played out. And that was where Venom doesn't get that he's in a gay bar. And he's just taking it there. I'm like, that's how you do a gay joke.
So, but I think the point that we're making here is that if you know one evening we're not doing anything and it shows up on TV, it's not a hard watch.
No. In that respect, like I'm not going to sit here and say is it bad as BBS or some of these other horrible movies. No. Satan's Retribution sends in 14 South African rands and says Bob feels butthurt that the hits were from Chapek. Perhaps because I was curious if Inside Out 2 wasn't another one of his movies, because some of these movies all had to be greenlit about the same time.
That would be funny. Chapek, the maker.
What's even funnier is I believe Captain America was greenlit before he left, and they still haven't released that damn movie. If I'm not mistaken, they've been working on it. It
needed improvement.
Well, 3 times over. But yeah, we talked about that last week, if I remember right. Dash Attack sends in $19.99. Thank you, Dash Attack. That's very, very generous. Says April O'Neil's race swapped in the Naruto. What's this? Naruto
comic.
I know. It's a joke. Crossover comic. She actually looks decent compared to the other Black Aprils. Yeah, I saw her. She doesn't look as bad. You're right. Thankfully, the Naruto characters look on point. I'll be getting it, and I'll keep you informed. And I wouldn't care so much about a race swapped April, but they got to do it to another ginger. What the fuck? And there's always been this stupid argument about whether or not April was black. Guess what? Everybody in the 80s had a fucking perm. Okay? Everybody. Even Paul probably did at one point.
Yep. But mine was natural.
Well, then that doesn't count. Then you didn't pay to have it done. It's not as cool.
No, I
didn't tighten it up or nothing?
I would use my Afro pick to tighten it up.
See what I'm saying? So yeah, just because Kevin Eastman drew the character like his at that time girlfriend who happened to have a perm, and yeah, she wasn't exactly straight up white. I think she was mixed race, but I don't think she was mixed race black. People have used that as an excuse to be able to swap the character to black, even though Eastman has flat out said no, she was not black, but it doesn't matter. They still use that as a reason. And there was one cover, I think, one time where they screwed up and made her look a little darker than any other time. So people are also using that as like a gotcha as well. It's like, no, that's just not true. Baxter Stockman was always black and they race swapped him for the cartoons and stuff, but no. Anyway, that being said, hopefully you got your $19.99 worth there, buddy. Packing Proton sends in 10 and says, don't forget about my 2 supers before the king misidentity. Also, video idea for culture, Paul's script, how can you make bad movies good? Start with Independence Day 2. Well, then he has to watch Independence Day 2.
Oh my God. No, not going to. It was hard to get through Independence Day 1.
Which would disqualify you for making a sequel. See, that's no. I like the idea though. I do like the idea. And I think you're right. I think there was some super chats before the show that we did not get in here, or at least I didn't
see. You see them, or is it just in my end?
Cannot see them either. So it's got to.
Okay, well, I shall sort it out.
What the hell is this?
I just wanted to show curly hair here. So some.
You just wanted to show us that you're naked in that picture.
Yes, correct. That's what I wanted to show.
He does this to me all the time. He sends me uncomfortable pictures like this, and he's just like.
I just wanted to show I'm channeling my James Woods.
Does this look sexy?
Who put out my hair? One of the best lines in all of film.
One of my least favorite of that era, but yeah, he was good as Hades.
He was good. There you go. You can let go of that.
Well, with that,
I just want to scar the children some more.
To the super chats we are missing before we get into that.
Yes, okay. So the first one was from Packing Protons.
Yeah, Scott Westbrook. He first sent us a super sticker for $5. Thank you so much. Everyone smash that like. And Packing Protons said for $5 video idea. Why Netflix is king at what they do and no other streamer can top it. Education for Hollywood.
We could probably put something together like that.
Well, one of it is in technology. The first comer is often has a leg up, although they weren't the first to do it, but they had this weird deal with Stars, I think that was called, that their massive library of films, they never signed any kind of document that said that it couldn't be streamed over the internet. So Netflix literally got this massive library for free and did not have to pay the owners of that property any licensing money. And that lasted until their relationship with Starz ended.
Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
we have the possibility of making that video. We have a lot of information here. I have some more, but we'll be saving that for the video.
It's a wonderful accident. If they didn't have that relationship, Netflix would not be where it is.
Indeed. And Packing Protons also said, supposedly, the Mask reboot, possibly with Carrie. I have not heard anything about
I
the
haven't
Mask
either.
reboot.
No,
I don't even know who has the rights anymore. Is it because New Line would have probably? I don't
I
think they've
know
done
that
anything with them in a while.
someone made some fan art or something recently, but I haven't seen anything about a reboot.
Yeah,
or
hopefully
even a
you haven't
continuation.
been. Hopefully you haven't been duped. I've noticed this on Facebook, especially. There's a bunch of these sites popping up where all they do is AI bullshit movies that aren't real, and people are buying into them left and right. Hopefully that's not what the deal is. I would be surprised because Jim has been, even though he talked all like, oh, I'm going to be retiring and all that crap, he has talked about doing another Ace Ventura, and I wouldn't totally see him like turning down a Mask sequel now, honestly. But we actually have a story about that in one of our early interviews we did, don't we, Andre?
We do. So check out our interview with the one and only founder of New Line Cinema, Mr. Bob Shea himself, which you can find in the interviews playlist, pretty early prominent.
Because he talks about how he basically screwed himself into paying Jim Carrey $10 million for doing Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, indeed. But moving on here.
It's kind of a fun story, but yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about that.
Story. Lord Toth has been a member for 24 months, saying hail. And yes, hail, we're glad to have you here. And then 2 super chats to lead us into the proper main topic. Satan's Retribution says, for 14 South African rounds, Bob feels butthurt that the hits were from Chapek. Yeah, Iger is not going to be too pleased with that, but he's going to steal credit. Don't you worry about that. And Dark Winter says, for £2, Feige is still there, then the MCU still is as well. So yeah, and with that, let us get into the story, because D23 is upon us, and there's a flurry of Marvel rumors coming. And let's begin with one that's been making the rounds. It first came from Chris Gore, and then it's been picked up by others, among them that Park Place, which write rumor: Marvel Studios cleaned house and fired activist producers. From what I understand, we're talking 10, 12, 13 producers thereabouts, and these would have been the really, really wokies at Marvel, the one that basically contributed towards making Phase 4 what it was, or at least to Kevin Feige is willing to blame for it, and they were let go.
Well, and we kind of were hearing things similar to this. At least I remember saying something, Andre, about
we also
from a couple different places where they were cleaning house. They were trying to get rid of some of the problematic people, I guess, or however you want to put it.
And again, this would have happened in April. This event would have taken place in April. That's when 15 people were let go from Marvel Studios.
Interesting.
15. Yeah. What happened in April? That would have been a few months following the release of Echo, which was another disaster for them in a long line of many.
Well, I mean, they also they released a terrible flop in the Marvels. So.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I'm sure that had a big play in it too. But yeah, that's what we were kind of hearing, was that Kevin was admitting even publicly that they know they had kind of screwed up. He'd been licking his wounds. He kind of knew they had to make some changes. He had also said publicly that, they were going to start looking to more veteran directors and other such, which was going along with stuff that we were hearing. And basically the mantra I kept hearing from more than one person, including our quote unquote sources or whatever you want to call them, was that basically a lot of Disney was cleaning house. The only ones that weren't, the only ones that were doubling down on shit was Lucasfilm. Basically their own little Epstein Island onto themselves.
Yeah, indeed. And we're about to get into that. And this is also something we have heard from Bob Iger himself, who, and this is a more gaslighting from him. Remember in like the last public talk that he gave, then he said, oh, during his absence, some people at Disney had forgotten that their mission was to entertain first, and some had taken the messaging a little bit too far. During his absence, finding a way to blame Chapek for him championing all this messaging, because he absolutely was the champion of it. But now, when it clearly it isn't working, they seem to be moving away from it. Everyone other than Lucasfilm, of course, and they now have some very good data points to show that messaging isn't working. You have now both success and failure stories within Pixar, with all of their woke projects failing, and then you have Inside Out 2, not woke, big hit. Same thing with Marvel. Everything they have released has been a disaster for the last few years, or almost everything, the exceptions being Guardians of the Galaxy, but that didn't make any money. And Spider-Man No Way Home, which they had to share with Sony. And then you have Deadpool and Wolverine, and I would say an anti-woke movie. And it does what they only dreamt that the Marvels would do, and basically everything else. And here you have more data points. Now, so I do not doubt for a second that they will be trying to put things back on the right path. But I don't know that they will be able to, because as this super chat alluded to here, I do not trust Kevin Feige, and I do not trust the people around him, because they said, yeah, they fired, 15 producers or something like that. I'm sure that those were lower level people. I don't know that they were the real decision makers. And if they were decision makers on individual projects, well, you still had Kevin Feige and the team around him approving of their ideas and probably encouraging it. To me, until Kevin Feige goes, or people we know are in his circle goes, I don't see any reason for optimism or any reason for change here. I know that they want to. I just don't trust that they're capable of doing any change. If they had been the people behind Deadpool and Wolverine, that would have been a different story, but they weren't. I mean, yeah, the movie has a Kevin Feige production in the beginning of it in the opening credits. That's a marquee credit. This is a Ryan Reynolds movie. Cultured, what say you?
No, I'm with you 100%. I mean, when I look at it, I don't have high hopes. We know the next two projects are going to be completely garbage. Actually, the next four. You've got, two, dead films in a row. You have, the Tin Man Falcon Cap, and then you have the Thunderbolts, right? Two things that aren't going to go over well with the majority audience. Now, you might get a little bit more love for for Aluminum Falcon, Sighting Man, but you're not going to get that follow up with Thunderbolts if that film doesn't bring it. And I don't care how many times.
Thunderbolts, it doesn't seem too offensive. It doesn't have the internals kind of vibe.
No, but what it does, but it also doesn't have any anima. It doesn't. It has no get up and go.
Exactly.
I don't know that I'd be too excited about that. I mean, it doesn't. It's not. Making me excited.
Yeah, no, culture is exactly right. The big problem with the Thunderbolts isn't that it seems offensive. It is that it seems completely and utterly forgettable. It features characters that, for the most part, has been rejected by the audience, both on the big screen and the small screen. And now we're all supposed to come up for this team that no one really responded to before. Yeah, they can try to pretend to themselves that this Red Guardian or whatever the hell Harbor's character from the Black Widow movie is some kind of big draw. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't know that he's some kind of Deadpool or some like super cool character that audiences really respond to, no matter how much he is. Yeah,
sure.
I liked him fine too, but I don't know that I would go see a movie centered around him or where he is bogged down by a team of nobodies I didn't like on TV.
Right. So my question is, what's the pull for that film?
David Harbour.
Okay, so what's the pull for that film?
I don't know.
Yeah.
How well did Deadpool do? Sorry, did Hellboy do when David Harbour was the pull for that?
It was a terrible movie, not his fault. It was a horrifically written movie.
Well, Black Widow was not exactly a good film. It was a terrible film. You know,
it was a terrible film.
So I would say everything that he's had an opportunity in recently, outside of Stranger Things, it really hasn't helped, and it certainly didn't. He's not ingratiated himself to a film audience.
He has been a bit problematic.
I think he is great on screen because, like, again, the problem here isn't really him per se.
No.
It's everyone else. It's literally everyone else on that poster that is my problem. He's my least concern, but he is the biggest star, so he is the one that we have to draw to because every other reason or every other person on that poster offers zero reason to go see that movie. It's just him.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say it's emblematic of everything that's happened post Endgame.
Yes,
is that
100%.
Again, it's this whole notion that the woke don't understand simplicity, and the comic book for the longest time did. They went, first of all, the comic book industry would never have killed off its main characters.
No,
we've gone through this already before. Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. If we're not going to get the original people back, recast them. Do not stop making movies with them until everybody is sick to death of them. They just have simplicity, and even I'm going to use the word capitalism is completely devoid of their vocabulary. They need to get lazy. They should never have buried T'Challa. Recasted with a black actor, the finest black superhero around, they kill him and bury him. Like, it's so stupid.
Well, I loved, this is a weird thing that I didn't think I would say, but I loved the fact that, okay, this is a spoiler, in Deadpool and Wolverine, they brought back the original, I think, MCU character in a way that nobody thought would ever happen again. It was the very moment that I thought, thank goodness this happened. And it allowed that actor to set another Guinness Book of World Record for playing a character across time. But regardless, see, I did my very best not to spoil.
You mean the one that we already spoiled 5 minutes ago was in the movie?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying not to, just in case somebody else tuned in. But regardless, the whole point being is that was something to get ginned up for. And now that people have heard about it, even though it might be a spoiler, they'll be ginned up about it too. There's nothing in the two films I just talked about, other than Giancarlo Esposito, right, in aluminum siding cap Falcon. And
I'm afraid of him in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. I think this might hurt his career.
I don't think it's gonna. I think it's like, what a terrible casting. You know what? Of all the side characters, although she's obviously part of Fox, I would go see a Domino movie before any of these movies that Marvel has come out with lately.
Absolutely. And this is my other big problem. Actually, that is my main problem with the Thunderbolts, that this is a product of the same team that came up with this when they were at their creative nadir. This is my main issue and why I don't really trust this movie, because it came from a period where Marvel could do nothing right, where everything they came up with, every last idea was just shit.
Yeah, the Black Widow movie should have been killer.
Yeah, and that it was all downhill from there. And this movie comes from when they were at their absolute creative bottom. That is where this movie can trace its origin to. So you have a shit team that no one cares about. But of course, if you had a really good creative team, like for instance, if you had a James Gunn, and he was basically told, hey, here's Marvel Suicide Squad, these are your characters who you have to work with, go. I'm sure he could have done something amazing with that, but I do not trust the people who have made that movie to do so. So I honestly think that the movies that they have coming, and the same with all of the Disney Plus series, they need to be scrapped. They can only harm the brand and undo the goodwill from Deadpool and Wolverine. The first one that has any chance of possibly being any good is Fantastic Four. That one I'm not going to completely dismiss, but everything else coming from Marvel between now and Fantastic Four, with the possible exception of Daredevil, because that did go through some retooling. We do not know what's going to happen with that. So I'm going to delay
Let me
judgment on that. But
I want
I
to
don't
push
think
back
they
on
have
that.
it coming until Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, why are you optimistic about Fantastic Four?
I'm not optimistic. I'm just saying
Oh.
that's the one where I don't have any reason to actively write it off right away. I have reason to write off Captain America 4. I have reason to write off Thunderbolts. Whereas Fantastic Four, that is being developed in a period where, just look at the headline right here, it started filming earlier this week. They have been making changes now for months. You said yourself, these 15 producers were fired in April. So let's just say that this movie is coming, or like for the last 4 months before shooting, they were aware we need to change things. Now, do I trust that the movie is going to be fantastic? No, but I'm not going to write it off right away. I'm going to say, okay, maybe you are trying. Maybe the movie won't be that bad. I don't think it's going to be that good, but maybe it won't be that bad because you are making this movie to make money. So I'm willing to trust at least that they're trying here.
Well, and when was the last Marvel movie where they actually went ahead and included a hot female in the cast? And the woman playing Sue Storm, I saw her in some costumes, looked great. And she was white and she was blonde. So that to me, just on its own, goes against type. So I'm not going to base my entire opinion on the movie just because of that. Pedro is problematic for me. But
yeah, that's not really.
I'm at this point where I really just don't care anymore. Like,
well,
so like whatever else comes
care.
out, because Deadpool is kind of like the nice little capper for everything as far as I'm concerned.
Let's hope they get it right. I mean,
yeah, if they get it right, cool, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I mean, I've been one of the few people saying that I don't understand why they've gone the direction they've had. They've been sitting on the X-Men forever. They've been sitting on the Fantastic Four forever. It's not like they couldn't have started getting something going, back in 2018 when or whatever it was, 19, when they bought Fox to begin with. They're just finally getting going, and here we are all these years later. Instead, they tried the MCU, which kind of gets into the other parts of our discussion here.
Yeah, I mean, from that article, I mean, that was the part they really identified that didn't work. They're bringing in a bunch of characters that they didn't build. Maybe Kate Bishop would have worked if you didn't do it in a television show. Maybe you could have built that out in a Hawkeye solo film. Maybe that could have been done in a better way. But really, Hawkeye was, not Hawkeye. And that's the problem. They try to introduce these characters and bring them along in these shortcuts, and they don't work. You gradually introduce Natasha Romanoff, right? You gradually introduce some of these characters into this process. You can take things for granted from Iron Man on because your anchor being was Tony Stark, right? To use Marvel.
Glad you mentioned anchor being, because that transitions us to something else. We had Chang in the thumbnail, as some noticed. That's a reference to this story right here, which I can't make any larger. Maybe Tom can put it up and make it larger. But this was a scoop that dropped from MEiTM to Shine Hello. Now, we do not know the accuracy of this. MEiTM to Shine Hello has a very mixed track record. Some things has been spot on. Other things has been...
I did a little research last night, and at best she's about 50-50.
Yeah.
And then so you take that 50% that she's right on, and
Is
a
it
good
woman?
portion.
I thought it was a he.
No, it's a she.
Oh,
And
okay.
at least that's my understanding of it. And not only that, so you take that 50% that she's probably right on, and a good portion of that, at least half of that, is probably stuff that you could just educatedly guess right. So I'm
going
gonna
to
say
wait until the Olympic boxing committee does the chromosome.
that's
But
about where we're
anyway,
at with her. But that
yeah.
being said, I mean, there is some legitimacy to some of her
Yeah. Let's look
leaks
at
and stuff.
this
But
then, and just with the bearing that this could be completely made up. There may not be any truth to any of this.
well, and the
But
reason
my
I
time to show hello, just because people can't read it, so I'm just going to go through it so we know what we're talking about here. What was Avengers: The Kang Dynasty supposed to be about? Now remember, that would be the Avengers movie that we were getting
Well-
before Secret War that got replaced with Doomsday. And
Can
what
I
it
say
says
before
here-
you start reading, Andre? I just want to say, because in my research to try and figure out how many times she's been right, not once did I see her or anybody else for that matter, unless Six or somebody else can find it for me that I didn't find in my research. Has anybody mentioned Anchor being before Deadpool and Wolverine? Unless it was in Loki or something like that and I missed it. So
I don't-
that is what makes me think this might be just fan-made bullshit. But anyway, continue with the story.
Yeah. In this film, and that would be Avengers: Kang Dynasty, the TVA began gathering anchor beings from across the multiverse, believing they are the only ones powerful enough to defeat the Council of Kangs. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were the anchors for their respective realities, while Tom Holland's Spider-Man served as the anchor for Earth 616. The movie was intended to be smaller in scope compared to Secret Wars, focusing more on Holland's Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and the other anchors like Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider. The plan was for all of them to ultimately fail, leading to the collapse of the multiverse and Kang's creation of Battle World. This would then set the stage for Secret Wars, where other MCU characters and additional multiverse figures would converge on Battle World. Now, again, we do not know the accuracy of it, considering the track record of My Time to Shine Hello. It's absolutely worthy taking of a grain of salt, but just for the moment, assume that there was some accuracy to it. It may not be, but let's just, for the sake of discussion, assume that this is the direction they were going. And given how crap everything else has been, I wouldn't put it past them. Paul, would you have been excited for the Kang Dynasty if this was the story?
You know what? Listening to the description, just as a pitch, if the next MCU was all about finding anchor heroes within each timeline, and then succeeding, forget about failing and then moving on to that bullshit other thing you had mentioned. That would actually be a really fine story, because it gives you an endless possibility of also doing movies where you don't know who the anchor being is. It could be some 12-year-old that no one had ever heard about. It would be just a great way. That's a great story technique, a premise, I think. I would have watched that. That I think is pretty neat, because within each timeline, they don't need to be fighting an ultimate a galaxy swallowing bad person. The bad person could be adjustable within each timeline. All they have to do is defeat that particular antagonist in that timeline and save that timeline. That's I like that.
Say you cultured.
I'm with Paul. I think that is a good way to do it, but then you're going to maybe allow yourself to fall into one of the tropes that, kind of ruined it in the first place, which is, the key to everything magician scene that we're all tired of. Like, this girl is the key to everything, which seems to be,
Well, that's got to be
thing.
gone. And
Yeah.
Kang was also, the problem with Kang was, in the end, he was he was.
No, but I'm
the
saying is
he was the master
if you
puppeteer.
yeah, but if you bring in an unknown anchor being, like unknown to the audience, like some 15-year-old girl randomly, as
Yeah.
you suggested, you're going to run into like an immediate, dismissal by a lot of the audience.
Well,
'Cause
I'm just
they're gonna
saying
be like,
for one
they're
of the
back to the old BS.
yeah, but that's just I'm just talking about it's just one of the threads, and
Sure,
then
sure.
you use other. I actually loved the way Wolverine pulled, or the way Deadpool actually pulled the one Wolverine he needed.
Yeah,
I thought
no,
that was great.
I think it's great. Yeah, the
Well,
one
it
that
wasn't
came
so much
from-
that he pulled the one he needed; he had to make him worthy, right?
Well,
Because even the
but that
TVA
makes
guy
it
said you could have
better.
literally brought me any other Wolverine, and it would have been fine. This is the worst one you could have brought me. He said,
Right, but he knew it was the right one.
"Well, and that
No,
goes
it was the
along
first.
with
No, that was the first one that looked decent. It was the
well,
first
and it
one
goes
that-
along with what his daughter says. Laura says, you were never the right guy."
Right.
Exactly. This was just the one that happened to need redemption. You know what? I think that
Exactly,
there's
yeah.
a fairly decent chance that this report is accurate. And you know
Well,
why?
I didn't even get to say my part, but go ahead and
No,
finish.
carry
Yeah.
on, Tom.
No, finish your thought on why you think it's accurate, because I'm going to be completely counterpoint to that.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I want to hear your thoughts first.
You know why? Because I think that the premise sounds like a Rick and Morty episode. And that is why I think this actually has a chance of being what they were going for, because it was written by Rick and Morty writer Michael Waldron that also did Loki. And Loki had all this kind of stupid crap like this. I do not recall if the term anchor being was ever used in that show, but I would not put it past Michael Waldron to be the person that came up with that concept. Maybe it's something that Team Ryan Reynolds did. Maybe that's how they came up with it. I cannot rule that out. But this thing reads like a Rick and Morty episode. That's why I'm not going to completely discount it.
And here's where I'm going to counterpoint it, and that's why I brought up the anchor being part being a big deal, because of all these leaks and stuff that this person knows so much, then why didn't they bring up an anchor being before? Because I just looked it up, and as far as Google says, the anchor being was only first talked about in Deadpool and Wolverine. But Six sent me something from X-Men 97 mentioning it. But that was just from this last week here, July 20th. So again, not something that helps me or helps the case for this, because a lot of this sounds like too much fan service, too many Spider-Men. There's not enough women, right? Regardless of who it was written by, if it was Rick and Morty writers or not, it does not sound in line with the stuff they were doing at Marvel before they made any changes.
Where are the Marvels? This is a good point.
That's what I'm saying. There's not enough of this sounds too much like fan service bullshit. Like, I mean, no way this is real, in my opinion, because I'm not even sure if we'll ever see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire again in the Marvel universe. We may, but not that much. They're not going to have them in there overshadowing Tom Holland. It's just not going to happen. I don't know. I mean, could be right, but I just don't buy it. Not buying it.
Yeah, no,
not enough black people and not enough women in it.
Those are some very, very good points there. And this would have been developed when they were all in on the EI and storytelling. But still, it does have that Rick and Morty flair to it, which My Time to Shine Hello could have faked for all we know. Either way,
I'm not looking for a deeper point here with the anchor being. What I'm saying is this is where I think that's evidence that this is just fan-made bullshit, because nobody even knew or was talking about anchor beings until Deadpool and Wolverine came out. That was my point. So yeah. And now all of a sudden that's the main thing here, and I think they're going off of something Kevin Feige said with the anchor being a big deal coming up now, and he's glad that people are using that term. But to me, that would have come into play after this script would have been brought into the mix, and that was what, not even 2 years ago now, year and a half ago, roughly.
Something like that. 2.5 years, I think.
Is it 2.5 now?
Well, you have to remember.
Well, they did get delayed because of the
the strike. The strike interrupted them. So yes.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do a couple of super chats pertaining to this before we move on here. Hi Dragon Star says for $5. I don't understand why Thunderbolts. Was it because of Suicide Squad and they wanted to capitalize on it? It's been years since it came out.
Yes,
Yes,
that's correct.
that is why you are. It absolutely is Suicide Squad because that is something that Kevin Feige does. He looks at what DC does, and then he does their version of it typically first. Like, for instance, Spider-Man No Way Home. This was a reaction to The Flash bringing back Michael Keaton. They just beat them to the punch. That movie came together in no time flat because they were trying to rush to beat DC to the market. Same thing with Captain America Civil War. That was inspired by Batman v Superman and their response to it. I do not doubt for a second that it similarly was Suicide Squad that inspired Thunderbolts. Now, why has it been so long? Well, because Marvel has been just mucking things up for the last few years. That's why.
Not only that, I think this first came into production or pre-production or whatever, or development or whatever, roughly probably about the same time James Gunn's Suicide Squad came out, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet if you look at the timing, they're pretty close.
I think the irony is looking at the number of characters in James Gunn's Superman. It looks like he's just doing Suicide Squad again.
I hope that the cameos, or I hope that they're just basically cameos and that the story is not going to be all that. But that being said, yeah, I get where you're coming from. Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from.
His modus operandi seems to fill the screen with assorted superheroes.
Well, and this is kind of part of the problem when you have a world that's got like more superheroes in it than regular people. That's kind of where it's gotten at this point with the Marvel and DC universes, in the sense like they haven't separated them enough anymore. I mean, I like that they would make little like, you know, references to the other characters here and there, and the idea of a team up movie once in a while would be great, but they've almost kind of ruined the specialness of it. And that's kind of another reason why I think Deadpool and Wolverine is doing what it's doing, because it's one of those few last team ups you can do that is kind of special. You know, it's something that the Deadpool has been teasing for years, since the first Deadpool movie, obviously. I mean, since the first time we see him on screen and he goes, "Oh, hello. I know, right? Who gave me my own movie?" Well, you have to fondle the right balls, and they rhyme with Pulverine or whatever, you know, like, so like clearly it's been this thing that's been set up and that worked for it, but I don't think you're going to be able to keep doing that on the MCU or DC side of things and people are going to keep showing up.
Black Adam was a team up movie also.
I did enjoy Black Adam. I know.
Yeah, that was one of the better ones. But that being said, the reason that failed, and again, like I said, I don't think teaming up a bunch of superheroes is the appeal anymore. And I mean, they would do well to go back and look at the history of comic books, right? Because Stan Lee and all these guys have talked about it before. It's like, you know, these things go through phases. Superheroes are just part of the phase. But then there's different phases of the superheroes. You know, they started off and then they faded off. Then they came to, you know, and then it was cowboys and westerns. Then it was army and action. And it was this, that, and the other. Then superheroes came back, and then the big thing that helped them was these team-ups, right? Like, if you hear the story about the Fantastic Four, that was Marvel reacting to the Justice League, right? So, like, that's kind of what started, and then they came up with the Avengers and the X-Men and all these other groups. Well, that stuff started tapering off, and you started getting the darker comic book age, and that's where the 70s come in, and you get the darker Batman and the Punisher and Blade and all these darker characters, and then you see that cycle through again and again and again through comic books for the next 30 years. It's basically the same kind of shit until they just kind of ruined it by making everything pink. But yeah.
Well, the team ups was stunting.
Yeah, it's just stunting, but you can only do it so often. That's my point.
That might, yeah, and the again, you know, I'm going to say it again. Marvel has no idea how to handle the original characters. We almost never see them in their non-super form.
No, they don't.
You know, all the characters, most of the characters have a corporeal, or not corporeal, but a human form. I mean, when did we ever see Thor as Dr. What's his name?
Dr. Blake.
Blake.
Oh, you mean the other guy that he is?
Banner. Dr. Banner.
Oh, you mean the Hulk? You meant? Oh, yeah.
No. I'm talking about Thor.
No, Thor has an
Oh,
alter
yeah, Thor
ego,
Blake.
and I
Dr.
No.
Blake. Yeah,
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 I mean,
Dr.
no.
Blake.
he was the blind guy. Thor
I don't
was
remember
a
being
blind,
blind, but
blind guy.
No, he had a limp. That's why you had a
Oh,
cane.
limp.
And the cane, you're thinking of Daredevil. He was the blind guy.
No, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm coming off as the expert here. I could
you
have
didn't smoke enough weed this morning,
I could have
Paul.
sworn
Donald Blake. That was the name of the
Dr.
doctor.
Blake. Yeah,
That was,
yeah.
that had,
Anyways,
like,
the
a
point
limp, so
is
he had
we
the
never
cane
saw
and
Dr.
he
Blake.
turned into Mjolnir.
Yeah,
No,
so
and you're
yeah,
right. Yeah, that was something I always wondered about. And the closest they got to it was when Thor had his roommate. I can't remember the guy's name. Kevin, I think it was. Anyway, like, so I wish they had done something with that, because then it was almost kind of like the same thing, but they didn't have it to where he actually changed into an alter ego.
So my
but
point
yeah.
is, though, they just don't know how to manage how
The,
special these characters are. And the characters, when they turn into their superhero alter ego, that's the icing on the cake.
Okay.
You need to be able to build stories out of their human form. I mean, the original, the very first Superman movie did it really well. I mean, it was fun to see Clark Kent, right? The original Spider-Man, it was fun to see Peter Parker.
Yeah, there's a difference though between those and Donald Blake. You know what that is?
Blake was boring.
Yeah, he sucked, and it was a good move to get rid of him.
But that doesn't mean they couldn't have
Yeah.
tried to fix him.
No, I see what you're saying, Paul, but Thor is probably the one exception where you probably don't need but I agree with you on the other sides of it. Like,
Sure,
none
I'm
of these
just using
characters
that as
have
an
an alter ego anymore. Like, it's like they're all just, ever since we had the I Am Iron Man and everybody knew that Tony Stark was Iron
Yes.
Man. Well, it ain't no thing that everybody knows who everybody is.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. And how many times
Black Widow's supposed to be a super spy, but she's world known now.
Yeah, exactly. How many times did Batman have to reveal his identity to some broad? Like, I got really tired of that.
Well, normally in the comics, I don't think he did it very often. That was why
No.
they made a big deal out of Alfred letting Vicky in the cave, and they even made a joke about it in the sequel. And that's what I love that joke.
So the thing is, there's tons of this already in comic books that worked, and they just chose to ignore it. And I mean, I think it would have been fun to try to find a way to make Blake work.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's what
Nightcrawler was one of the most worthless characters in the X-Men, yet the one played by Alan Cummings was possibly one of the most interesting revelations. And I would have liked to have seen that character back.
oh, X2 is so damn good. I just watched it again last week.
But Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler was staggeringly good.
Yeah, and he's one of the big reasons why.
Yeah.
But Culture, you were
Anyway.
trying to say something there. Sorry.
Oh, no. The only time they referenced Dr. Blake was when they introduced Thor to the world, when he was being introduced by the Scandinavian doctor that was right in the first Thor movie, when, after he was trying to steal
Is that
Oh,
the
his
hammer.
name? Did they call him Blake?
Yeah, he comes in and
I
gives
totally
him
spaced
credentials.
that out, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they gives him credentials of Dr. Blake, if you remember.
I know who you're talking about, Skarsgård, yeah.
So there
He's
you go.
naked or whatever in the second one running around.
Well,
He's like the best part of the second one, I think.
Well, yeah, but the first one, he showed up in Thor, and he showed up to try to pull him out of there. This is my colleague, Dr. Blake, and then they go to the bar together. You guys
Good
remember
for
that?
you. Wow.
I totally spaced that out that his name was Blake, I guess.
Well, it doesn't hurt that one of the boss's favorite films is that one. So it's not like
That's just it. I haven't
Yeah.
watched them in a while, yeah.
So.
I'm sure I caught it when I initially watched it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure. I'm almost certain. I could be wrong, but I'm almost certain that's what happens.
Somebody would have probably corrected
Yeah,
you tonight. But
I think he's also referenced as a former boyfriend to Natalie Portman.
That's what I remember. But of course,
Yeah.
those may connect. Because I think
Donald Blake, right? Donald Blake. That was the name.
Donald
because
Blake,
wasn't his? I would say Now that you mention it,
and of course, he also has a speaking role in the 1988 made-for-TV movie, The Return of the Incredible Hulk.
That's the version I always knew growing up.
Mine as well.
And yes, 6 does live to correct me. So if anybody's going to correct me, it's 6.
Yeah.
So no, as far as this thing, I don't know if I believe it. I'm glad to see that Deadpool and Wolverine is doing so good. I think whatever changes they were making, if this layoff was back in April, I think that this will basically, hopefully, if anything, it might be one of the few times they learn some proper lessons. Now, will they learn all the right lessons? Well, that has yet to be seen. But once we get past this hump, and I think, wasn't it Gary of Nerdrotic who was saying something the other day about this? Like he had, or somebody was, I can't remember who had said they had talked to somebody and it was the same thing. Like, yeah, basically we got to get past these two movies. Maybe it was Chris Gore was saying it
I
on
think it
Gary's
was
show.
Chris Gore, and he said it.
Yeah,
was,
basically we need to get
Definitely
past
Gore.
these two. Yeah, we need to get past. I think he was on Gary's show is why I said that, but I was just mixing it up. But yeah, he's like, we got to get past these two movies, like we all been kind of figuring, and then things will start to feel like old Marvel again. Yeah, I think it was Chris said it the other day, actually, or yesterday. But
and of course,
or not yesterday.
I
the other day.
remain to be convinced about that because they no longer have the quality control that they.
I agree with you.
Still the Kevin Feige show, and now we are asking Kevin Feige to do on his own what he always had help to do before. Can he do it? I remain unconvinced. I'm be very happy to be proven wrong, but I have completely and utterly lost faith in Kevin Feige.
Yeah, it's Selvig is the one name. So I think the other guy that you were thinking of is Blake.
Yeah, Eric Selvig.
Yeah. That's the name.
Who ironically is supposed to be a Norwegian character, although he's
That's
played
true.
by a Swede.
That
I'm
bothers
sorry.
you to no
I
end,
was
doesn't
I
it?
was trying to be kind and say a Scandinavian, so I covered all.
That's
the
the few
there.
times where I can see Andre's bias or whatever you want to call it. Like, because I mean, I can't call it
He's a
racism.
homer. He's a homer.
He hates the Swedes. Okay,
No,
sorry
I don't.
guys. No,
I
just
like
kidding.
the Swedes. I'm just saying.
You hate it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, because like, Norwegians, as a general, we have a friendly rivalry and a little brother complex with the Swedes, right? Because we want to be better than because they're our big brother in Scandinavia. And as for me personally, I love the Swedes.
I'm kidding, of course, but
I miss the early 2000s because Oslo was flooding with Swedes that would come to work, that would work in our bars and everything like that. The ladies would come, and I was going to go into any more detail, but I miss Oslo being filled to the brim with Swedes.
You have no idea how probably accurate that is, Grand Admiral Adam, because we're so much the same, yet we're so different. And I just love his reaction. Like, I just love it because, like, when I played, you know, the Jaws thing for you, just like, I sound like a fucking Swede.
Well, okay, I'm conflicted because I have like this.
I was gonna say you got a little bias. Don't pretend.
I have this eternal little brother complex by being Norwegian that all Norwegians have to the Swedes. So we have like this rivalry, but at the same time, personal level, Swedes are awesome people. And I miss Oslo being flooded by Swedes.
No, I part of that joke was that, yeah, I don't think you really have like a.
But I do believe people can tell the difference between.
I don't think you really have a hateful bone in your body. Yeah,
that sounds Swedish, which is just fun. So I think we're going to use that.
You can only tolerate so much stupidity, though.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, was there anything more we had to say on the Disney?
Chaos Sonic says as a quote, "There is only one blade.
There's only going to
be one blade." Considering how shit the Blade leak's been, he's right. Yeah. There's one thing though. I can see the actor who played Blade in that short-lived TV series. He's probably crying at that movie, like thinking, "Am I nothing to you?" Because technically,
well, thank God
one more on TV.
You know what? Did you see that, Andre? That he took one more for the team, because that was part of how I did not know. That was how this leak got. I thought it got leaked out that the TV version of Blade was in the movie. And that was making the internet everywhere. Does anybody else remember this? This was like a week or two before the movie came out.
First time I ever heard anything.
Okay, so yeah, there was even a snapshot that made it look like it was legit, that it was the actor from the TV version, like he was just in the background of a scene.
Sticky Fingers? That's the dude's name.
Is that who played him on TV?
Sticky Fingers.
Yeah, he was like a rapper.
On TV.
Was that your roommate?
No.
Oh, damn. I was close. One of these days I'm going to get him.
You are.
Because I'll catch him in a moment when he's not thinking straight. Anyway, so yeah, no, I thought that was the case. So like going into the movie, I thought, oh, he's just going to be in the background as the TV version. And everybody was saying it was kind of a joke to Wesley Snipes because him and Ryan Reynolds didn't get along. So I believed that leak. It made sense. And it's kind of along the lines of something that Ryan would do just to kind of a little fuck you. You know what I mean? But little did we know. And I honestly thought about it and I looked back on it and I'm like, and I watched some of the stuff about it from back in the day and I'm like, I don't really see here where they had too much interaction. I think a lot of Ryan's and his animosity between the two of them was that they just didn't really spend any time together and that Wesley was probably being a bit of a diva on part 3.
Probably. And also in my head canon, Ryan Reynolds' character there is a Deadpool variant.
Right?
But on that note, Cultured unfortunately has to be leaving us.
Why does he always do this to me?
Yeah. I wish he could stay longer. We miss having him. We like having Cultured here. Did he freeze? Or is he just standing still?
No, he's typing something.
Okay.
I'm here.
What Cultured?
No, Culture.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a habit of doing that where people think I'm frozen or something. So I apologize.
This is a Canadian, at least Ontario, day off and a holiday, so I do need to leave also.
Oh.
Well, I don't see, unless I'm missing him.
I think I saw one that was for here. Shadow Dancer, the Red Mage.
Okay.
Has been a member for 22 months. Saying Chats is talking about Pierce Anthony's virtual world series of novels. 5 characters anchored the virtual plane. Each novel changed the mix. Okay. Yeah, and I misread Chats for Chato, but yes, thanks for that. So yeah, there we have anchors. Before, of course, you had to steal it from somewhere.
You got to get it from some bar.
Yeah.
What is it? What
I don't see anything else specifically for either of you. So with that, I want to thank you both for being here today. Paul, what should people check out of your recent released videos?
Yeah, I think I'm dropping a total of 3 today. I think actually all 3 have dropped. I dropped 3 yesterday, 3 Saturday, 3 Friday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dropping 3 a day. Plus we're working on getting 3 videos out a day over on That Game Place. Usually it's about 2, but we're trying to get to 3. And yeah, we're going great guns. So do check out my channel. I would truly appreciate it. Do check out Paul, who is wonderful.
Check out both.
He makes me laugh almost every day. So there you go. Love Canadians.
Probably my hot girls of Algiers.
You always leave before we get to the stories I want to talk about with you, Paul. This is not cool.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when I leave. I'm going to go, though. I'll see you.
Yeah, well, I don't like it when you leave because you're like my security blanket.
I know, and I miss you too. And but no, I have much banking things to do, so I got to go take care of that. So.
Yeah.
And Mikey in here.
Is there a quick topic that you wanted to cover?
I did want to talk to you about what Vince Vaughn had said, but I mean, if you don't have the time, I don't want to get too deep into it now.
Well, it depends on how long you figure it's going to take. I mean,
I don't know.
What did Vince Vaughn say?
Well, it's about comedy, so that's why I think it's something that.
Then let's do it.
All right,
let's do it. All right, bring it up.
All right, so this is Vince Vaughn was on the. I can't remember I always forget the name of the Hot Eats or whatever it's called, that show. A lot of comedians and actors do.
Where they eat? Oh yeah, Hot Ones.
Hot Ones, that's what it is. Okay, thank you. I always forget the name of it. It's my bad. Okay.
It's a funny show. It's a good show.
So let's just let it speak for itself here.
Hollywood no longer making the kinds of R-rated, wide-release theatrical comedies that were such a tower of strength in your career. How have you seen Hollywood's interest in making those kinds of films change over the course of your career, and what do you think are the forces at play?
And I also think it's relevant right now when we have a big R-rated comedy / superhero movie breaking the box office right now with 2 white male leads, but I think that's relevant. Plus we needed to pause it. There.
Well, they just overthink it, and it's crazy. You get these rules. It's like if you did geometry and you said 87 degrees was a right angle, then all your answers are messed up instead of 90 degrees. So there became some idea or concept, like they would say something like you have to have an IP.
Right. Yeah, right.
So for some reason, Battleship, which is like a game we used to play like a graph, became a vehicle for storytelling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Whereas like an IP like John Hughes from our neck of the woods, right? An IP was a girl's turning 16. Like every girl turns 16. Or I'm gonna cut school. You know, life situations. Or old school. What if I got to go back and, you know, be in a fraternity now at this stage of the game? The people in charge don't want to get fired more so than they're looking to do something great. So they want to kind of, you know, follow a set of rules that somehow like get set in stone that don't really translate. But as long as they follow them, they're not going to lose their job because they.
And this is the kind of thing we always talk about with why, when people ask why Kurtzman and those don't lose their job, is because they do that. They follow this unsaid set of rules that they can always blame somebody else for them.
Well, it's not rules. It's an existing IP.
Right.
So in comedy, when you make a pitch, and you know, the comedy is no different from an individual sketch. A movie is just a sketch idea that can comfortably fill out 90 minutes, right? There's no difference. Now, some people actually will accuse a comedy of being, you know, that shouldn't have been 90 minutes. It should have been a 5-minute sketch. We've all heard that accusation, right?
Yeah,
Right?
I've made that accusation a couple times.
But you know, so that's really it is. Says, you know, I spent 20 years of my life sitting around pitching ideas to 3 other guys, just trying to make them laugh, and you know which ones worked. You know, Mr. Canoe Head is a very funny idea. A superhero with an aluminum canoe welded to his head from like you're laughing. So, so you start with that. And the things that he mentioned, like I don't think he mentioned volleyball, but he mentioned John Hughes.
Yeah.
John Hughes, you know, would have a pitch. Someone, you know, Ferris Bueller.
Ditching school for the day, yeah.
Ditching school for the day. Okay. I can see how that could become comedic.
Especially with the character they have. But it's funny because he basically comes to the same conclusion. I did kind of want to just...
Yeah, so Home Alone. Home Alone.
Yeah.
The kid is left alone on Christmas. The parents forget about him on a big Christmas trip. And you've got the two things. You've got the mom desperately trying to get back in a snowstorm to try to rectify a horrible thing that she did. And I mean, you could imagine, like, a mother is left her kid. Like, what a terrible human being she is. And she's concerned about what danger her son is in, but he's a clever little boy, and he, you know, finds a way to deal with these characters in a Looney Tunes kind of way. So I don't know if any studios are taking those kinds of pitches.
No,
it's
and I
so
don't think
hard
they
to
are.
make those comedy pitches.
And that's basically what he's saying here, and he kind of comes to the same conclusion you do. So I'll just let it finish out here because
They're not going to lose their job because they can say, "Well, look, I
crunched the numbers."
Yeah, I made a movie off the board game Payday, so you can't, even though the movie didn't work, you can't let me go, right?" So people want to laugh. People want to look at stuff that feels a little bit like it's, you know, dangerous or pushing the envelope. And I think you're going to see more of it in the film space sooner than later, would be my guess.
So
I hope he's right.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I agree and I object to, and that is an individual can become an IP. So a studio will go, it's a Will Ferrell film. So we're done. But first he had to do Alf and make it.
But are
successful.
they anymore? That's, I think, the thing.
Well, but we don't have any IP comedians anymore. That's the problem. Will Ferrell is not making movies, or maybe he's pitched a bunch and they've turned them all down. I don't know. Comedians often expend their energy and go. It's not the easiest genre to do. I would say comedy is more difficult than drama. Because drama just has to entertain people and make them kind of weepy, things like that. But if in a comedy, if you don't get the laughs, it's not a comedy. Like, there's nothing else more difficult than a comedy.
No, you're right. And I think that's part of what Vince is saying here is he's part of the reason we haven't seen him in a lot of movies lately. And I think this is another reason to go off of this is why a lot of people have been filmmaker wise have been flocking to Netflix, because it seems like that's the only place you can get a Adam Sandler movie made or a specific actor inserted here. And that's how they're one of the few places still sell. And that's, I think, the main point, because going beyond the woke crap, because we know that's one of the main problems, right? That goes beyond saying this was something that was setting in beforehand. And this is actually part of what got me into what we're doing right now, is that I noticed this McDonaldization of Hollywood, this idea that everything had to have an existing IP. There's the difference, Paul. It's yes, I agree with you. Everything can become an IP if it's done well. But the problem is, what he is saying is, unless you come in saying, oh, I'm pitching a Scooby-Doo movie, they don't want to hear you.
But that's traditional. That's been around even when I was down there. Okay.
But the difference then was that. But the difference was then you used to be able to go like, here, I got an Eddie Murphy movie. Here you go. You know,
but Eddie Murphy became the IP. Now, how many movies did he have to do before he became a saleable
One
IP?
or two.
Yeah. And you had the movie where he was Trading Places, right?
Basically 48 Hours in Trading Places, put him on the map, Beverly Hills Cop,
and
sent him over the moon.
Made him a huge star. And then suddenly you just kept pitching Eddie Murphy movies, and he made a lot of bad ones too, right?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I don't know whether he's an IP, but and I'm not entirely certain that even Ben Stiller was necessarily an IP, but he works his ass off and he's made some brilliant stuff. But Farrell isn't doing anything. And who are some of the other 40-year-old virgin? Well, Judd Apatow is a.
Well, they don't even do like Martin Lawrence movies anymore. They don't do any of that kind of stuff anymore.
That's right.
Like
where are they? But you can tell just from the title that there's a comedy premise in there. 40-year-old virgin. Okay, that's all I need for the premise. That's actually in the title, right? Men in Black, which you can't really get from the title, but that's which
was already an existing IP.
And that was from a comic book, an existing.
But like, I mean, the Todd Phillips comedies, the Apatow comedies, those are probably some of the last.
Yep.
Bastion we had, and I mean, Seth Rogen is one of the only guys.
The Farrell brothers,
Farrelly brothers. Well, they used to do some of those things. At least one of them, I think, was working on like the Not Another movies and the scary movies or something like that. But like, other than that, those things have kind of fallen off a cliff.
Oh yeah, the guys who did Airplane again.
Yep.
You only have
the Farrelly brothers are the Dumb and Dumber guys. Yeah, you're right. The
Dumb and Dumber guys.
The Zucker brothers. I was thinking. I'm sorry.
There's only so many comedies you have in you, I believe, and there's some who have done more than most. Again, Farrell, I think, has done some great stuff. And a lot of people don't like the two guys figure skating movie, but I love it. To me, we've seen that.
That one's okay.
So many times. And the other thing too is my one complaint about the woke argument is that, and I've mentioned this to you guys already, is Hollywood made tons of comedy movies along the lines of Arsenic and Old Lace. None of these movies pushed up against the woke barrier. In many ways, we need more of those. We need more movies like this. Wasn't a big hit, but Dave. Remember Dave, the movie?
That was a semi-decent hit, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that movie. That is an absolutely underrated comedy, and it's kind of a throwback to the old style.
Honestly,
comedies.
Probably
we
the
need
last
more of those.
The last successful comedian. It kind of was like in the era of we switched from the movie star over to the director star, and that was Paul Feig. Yeah. He was probably one of the last ones who was successful at it, and he kind of killed it with Ghostbusters. If you think about it,
yeah.
Instead of taking his trend further, he decided, okay, now I'm going to switch to an IP that already exists instead of taking previously set like genre films and putting my stamp on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, truth be told, I wasn't even a fan of Bridesmaids. It was just
a lot of people were, and that got Oscar nominations for Melissa McCarthy and stuff. And that's my point, is that was kind of the last successful along the same lines as Todd Phillips with Hangover.
He also did Spy with Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Spy and Heat both did well.
That was hilarious.
Then it was switching to an IP. Actually doing Ghostbusters is what killed his career.
Well, Melissa McCarthy became an IP.
To a point, I get what you're saying. Yeah, so she was kind of his... But that's the thing, is they were that team vehicle, though, right, and they were all successful up until that point.
Sure, and then she and her husband took over her own movies and then just cranked out a bunch of failures. So, listen, Hollywood is lazy. Get used to it. They'll say no to everything. No, because it's easier to say no. Then suddenly it becomes a huge success, and then they say yes, too much, but in a very narrow framework. That's the problem. It's much
Right.
easier to say no. They want to say no because, like as you mentioned, and as oh God, forgot his name here in the picture,
Vince Vaughn.
Vince. They're afraid to fail.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean I agree with you on almost every point you just made too, but I also agree with everything that Vince is saying at the same time, and I see where he's coming from. And I
sure.
think you're right that the big problem is that the studios are not willing to take a chance on, like, you know, an old, like what they used to do with, like, say, you know, you brought up Dave, which I believe was that an Ivan Reitman film? I
Yeah,
think it
it's an Ivan
was.
Reitman movie.
And there's a great example because Ivan Reitman said, you know what, this Arnold Schwarzenegger guy, he's a lot funnier than people think, because he even prejudged him.
Well, Twins.
And that's
There's
what
a
I was
high-
just going to get to is,
yeah,
and he's like,
Twins
you
is
know
a high
what, I
concept
think I
movie.
can do something with this guy.
Yes. Twins
And
was
he started
great.
with Kindergarten Cop and then Twins, and then from there. But
I
yeah,
don't have a tumor.
it's not a tumor. Who's
Not
your
a
daddy and
tumor.
what does he do?
So again, comedy comes from that one moment. Let's make Arnold Schwarzenegger the kindergarten cop. Okay, there you go. Okay,
It's a concept, right?
It's a concept, and comedies are high concept vehicles, and we're missing. We're missing all those wonderful Jimmy Stewart movies.
Yeah.
No one's writing those.
I can pitch you a comedy concept right now. You insert whatever actor you want. I picture it like a Jim Carrey, whatever type of role, whoever. Basically, it's a guy who has the worst luck in the world, and then one day he gets Chinese takeout, and he gets a fortune cookie, but it's empty, and he just happens to slip the empty paper in his pocket and doesn't think about it. Well, from that moment on, he has the best luck ever, and everything that he wishes and thinks about comes to be for him. And then he finally figures out it was because he had that blank fortune cookie slippy, because he doesn't have it on him anymore, and his bad luck comes back. So that's the concept. I bet you can run with that like crazy.
Yeah, there's similar movies out there like that, but there's you go. That's a high concept thing where it could very well be written that there was no magic.
The name of the movie, Misfortune.
But that exists. I think Misfortune exists. The name exists. You'll have to look it up.
If it's older than 10, 15 years, I think we're fine.
The point is, again, in that particular case, you could write it that there was nothing magical about it, but he gave it magic.
And it was just it gave him the confidence. Exactly.
It gave him the confidence to do that stuff. Yeah. So again, you start off with the schlub who gets the girl. Well, what's the movie with Seth Rogen? Is it? No, it's not Seth Rogen where he's the fat. Oh, it's Jack Black, where he gets Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, you're thinking of Shallow Hal.
Shallow Hal. That was a fun movie.
Yeah, and that's kind of a similar kind of concept. Yeah, he's the only one who can't. He can only see inner beauty. Yeah,
correct. And I don't think that would be offensive to the woke. We're not making movies like that. So
I think the way it was executed, it would be. But I agree with you that that's the kind of concept that you could come up with now and probably do it in a way that would work. Yeah,
School of Rock, fantastic movie.
Yeah. But I agree with you. Like, we don't need to jump in with like a Blazing Saddles, right? We don't need one of those right out the bat. And I think you're right. I think we have higher expectations, and I think the audience is more than happy with things like Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, the studio sat on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure because they didn't get it.
Yeah,
and they released it a year later, kind of by accident or whatever.
It almost got released straight to video, actually.
Yeah, they squeezed it out of their anus and had no idea that the audience just got it bang immediately. And again, one of the things that you learn after writing more than 10,000 sketches is that it's not always about the execution, it's about the idea.
Yeah.
That people will glom onto a premise, and then you just kind of accidentally stumble through making the damn thing to try to make it work.
Well,
so, my solution is that we just need to make more comedies, like tons of them, like as many as we possibly can, of every single stripe. And we should not hang our hats on having them all R-rated and kind of offensive. They don't need to be.
No, they don't have to be. No, I agree with you completely. And I mean, that's where, like, you find some really, like, Gene Wilder's a great example of somebody who could do everything, right? I mean, we need more guys like that in Hollywood who are able to come in and be funny on all levels, not just on screen, but writing, directing, everywhere.
But they run out of steam. And And where is the next Farrelly brothers? Where is the next Ben Stiller? He's doing more
Are they
dramatic
allowed to?
things.
That's the thing. Are they allowed to exist anymore? I think they're on YouTube, to be honest with you, Paul.
Okay, so that's the interesting question. Are there potential replacements out there that are being held back? That's really the question, right?
I think that's what's happening, to be honest with you.
So
I mean, we used to live in a world where, like I said, even Martin Lawrence or some of these other comedians, like literally they just throw them into a high concept comedy, whether it was Black Knight or, Blue Streak or something like that for him, or, you brought up Ferrell, Will Ferrell. Like, yeah, I mean, he used to do all his, they couldn't even make like a Dewey Cox now.
Well, and speaking of Ferrell, what happened to Lorne Michaels? Now, Lorne Michaels was a source of a huge amount of comedy, a lot of it failures, but you have to give him credit for, throwing out his cast and getting behind movies like, what was the dance movie with Ferrell and Roxy,
Night at the Roxbury.
Which is,
but see, that's the thing. SNL has ate itself alive. It's not what it used to be. It used to be a comedian factory, and Will Ferrell was probably one of the last alumni that I would say was
again still shit. Lorne Michaels tried. What's the Pat, the movie about the androgynous?
It's Pat, yeah.
It's Pat. Why would you make that movie? But on the other hand, I give him credit for trying. Like you have to say, yeah, why not?
Well, and then you have like the Stuart Smalley movie, which is actually pretty good, but nobody went to see.
I didn't see it either.
It's actually really funny.
Okay.
You should see. You'd actually probably like it
a lot. Now look at all the movies made with Saturday Night alumni, and now we got not Melissa McCarthy, someone or other, who I have no interest in watching in a movie. She's not starred in anything, I don't think, but she has been a second fiddle. It doesn't matter. So who at SNL?
Nobody knew. I think Colin Yost is the only one who is anybody who's of any name anymore.
Right.
Remotely.
I don't see him making feature movies.
Well, he was supposed to be making a Ninja Turtle movie, but I don't even know if that's gone anywhere.
Oh. Yeah, I've now, after many decades, finally stopped watching SNL.
Are you thinking Kate McKinnon? Is that who you're thinking?
Kate McKinnon, thank you. I have no interest in watching Kate McKinnon movie.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember her damn name either.
And then and how did Melissa McCarthy blow up her career after Spy, which was so good?
Well, I think you answered that is because she started making comedies with her husband.
Yes,
she made what was it, Molly or whatever the hell the name of that movie? Or no, not Molly. That was the name of her.
Well, there was the one with
Tammy. That was what I was trying to think. Tammy. That was a dumb one, and there was a few other ones she made that were just like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, she did.
But no, I think you'd actually enjoy Stuart Saves His Family.
Oh, then she did the superhero,
the superhero one, yeah,
the fat superhero. But I get the premise. I can see why they did it. As a comedian, I go, okay, I get what you're doing, but you failed the execution.
But yeah, I recommend you see Stuart Saves His Family, because then you understand why Stuart Smalley is the way he is. Because his family is batshit crazy. It's actually pretty good.
I'm gonna go watch it.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how easy it is to find anymore, but like I think it came out on DVD, so it's probably on streaming somewhere. But
well, anyways, I would just like to see more comedies. Just period.
Well, Andre's been quiet this whole time, and I know you're dead inside, but do you have anything to say about comedy, Andre?
No.
So there you go.
He's a pod person. Sorry,
we created a clip based on the.
We did. And Packing Proton says with $5, Dave is an absolute favorite. My super ex-girlfriend, not so much. Yeah, that was not a very. That was not a good one. And then SFX F314 Sabretooth Raptor asks Paul, if you had an opportunity to do a revival of a British comedy series, are you being served of the British comedy series? Which actors would you have, and would you do a US version?
Well, the problem with Are You Being Served is that it takes place in a retail store, right? And I have a real problem with workplace comedies where, why are you not working? I had that problem with Taxi too, where okay, if all the characters are out driving, then then where's the comedy coming from?
That's just the times of the day we don't see the place.
Right. So are you being served? I would love to see, maybe an Americanized version, and maybe they tried it, is
I'm trying to think.
Keeping Up with Appearances, which is just a phenomenal premise.
That is a really, really good one. Yeah.
Really funny, lower middle class couple where the woman is grasping and she wants to appear richer and more successful than she is. Her last name is Bucket, but she pronounces it Bouquet.
It's not that she wants to appear richer, it's that she wants to appear more refined.
Yes.
Appear as being more posh and having 1,000 years of posh ancestry. That's
right.
The thing. Not a matter of just money, how vulgar. No, it's about class. She wants to appear as she's a pure classicist that wants to appear as someone from the nobility, upper class. But in reality, she's complete working class.
Complete.
And the perfect juxtaposition is against her sisters and their family, which is the absolute lowest of the low, working class. I'm not going to say scum, but yeah, I guess that scum would be the correct word. Just, yeah, like, or just working class with the cousin Onslow and everything. And then you have the eternally suffering husband that has to try to play along and keep up appearances, knowing perfectly well, but I'm a laborer, and his name is Bucket, not Bouquet.
And he just does it because it's happy wife, happy life.
Exactly. Which is not going to be happy for him.
She had the cousin in the wife beater, the white.
Yes, that's Onslow. Cousin Onslow. He's the best character of the series.
Wasn't he great?
He was fantastic.
That's a very underrated comedy. So
most British sitcoms are underrated. Here's the thing: most of them don't translate too well, and the times it has been tried has ended in disaster.
True.
I mean, tried to do a remake of Red Dwarf. It didn't fail. There was like
Faulty Towers.
Pilot, Faulty Towers. They tried 3 times. The only one that I can think of that actually worked is House of Cards, which wasn't comedy but political thriller. The American remake, because House of Cards, Kevin Spacey, is actually a remake of an earlier British series,
which I love. We have the British one on DVD.
I would say though that the American was actually better in that case.
It was good. Kevin Spacey was absolutely fantastic, but when he left, anyway, it doesn't matter. We not only do we need more movie comedies, but we've lost our sitcoms too. So
sitcoms have gone the way of the dodo, which is sad.
Yeah,
kind of was the breeding ground, right? Like, and I know you and I have had this conversation before. It kind of went in a level, right? Like you started as a writer for a comedian, then you did your own kind of stuff.
Yep.
Then you got your TV show. Then from there you started your movie career, and that was how you did it, right? And now that whole way of making a comedian a star has gone away. Yeah.
And didn't John Hughes start as a TV writer?
Probably. Most directors and writers in the past, they either started on, like, if you go back into the 60s and 70s, it was always like, from local television to network television to, a co-writer or something like that, or a rewrite on a movie.
I think John Hughes did start off in the world of National Lampoon.
And I was gonna say, then you get into a little later, then it was like writing for other outlets, and then you had like music videos and stuff like that eventually come along, and commercials.
Now the only farm team is from Rick and Morty.
Unfortunately, that's the thing, is they don't have the farm team like they used to. You're correct.
You need the farm team. I think it's really super important. Anyways, Vince, good for him. I thought he was wearing a toupee, but that looks pretty real.
He actually looks like he's lost some weight since the last time.
Yeah, he does. I'm happy to see that. Of course,
looking pretty good.
Looking, I'm glad to see that. And he can be very funny. The Wedding
Crashers is good. Yeah,
was just absolutely well. Who did that film? Who
was? I don't know. Was it him? And because that's the thing, is he's kind of he's one of the last bastion of one of those kind of guys who both writes and stuff as far as I know, I think. Let's see here. Writers. Well, he's not a writer on that one, but Steve
David
Faber and
Dobkin
Bob
is the
Fisher and
director.
David Dobkin, yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
You know, it's good to see not so many writers though.
No, I mean that was a
Pretty-
good movie.
It's not
And,
even that high concept, even.
No. But the big comedy machine was oh God, again, my brain gone. The Home Alone guy.
John Hughes, yeah.
John Hughes.
Well, he was a
John-
4-quadrant comedic
Yeah.
director, yeah.
So is there a John Hughes out there that's being suppressed that we don't know about?
I think so.
Definitely. I think there's 100 John Hughes out there that are
I don't know about
being suppressed.
100, but he won in a million.
Yeah, but I think there's at least somebody who probably could have taken that mantle, and there's been a few who have tried.
What's the population of the United States?
400 million.
Okay, so if he's 1 in a million, that means there's 400 of him out there. And I just said 100, so I'm actually giving him better.
He just schooled you on some math. That's why you don't fuck with AI, Jesus.
So I'm going to get going now that I've helped you complete your segment.
No wonder he kind of looks like Jesus. He's like AI Jesus.
Me?
No, Andre.
Yeah, John Hughes died too young.
He did. That was sad. Big, huge loss.
Yeah. And I see.
And he made movies for everybody, kids and adults and teenagers, and there was
Uncle
nobody
Buck.
like him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then he made Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I would argue is probably one of the greatest fucking R-rated comedies ever made.
Yep.
And John Candy deserved an Oscar for that, and I will stand by that till my dying day.
That's not my hand.
Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows. But yeah, High Dragon Star on the comedy note sends in $5. Says the issue with comedy is what he's trying to say, is the best comedies will offend someone in some way. Most of Hollywood has lost their sense of humor and have thin skins. I agree with you to a point, Dragon Star, but I think Paul made a great point that not everything has to be offensive,
edgy
necessarily. No, there's a way you can still do comedy, and you can without it being it can be inoffensive and still be very clever. I mean, look at Pixar for years did great.
Oh, yes. People forget that those original movies were comedies. They don't put them in the comedy genre.
No, but Toy Story is a buddy comedy.
It's a comedy. Monsters Inc. Comedy.
Buddy comedy.
These are comedies, full out comedies, but people don't think of them as comedies like they do 40-Year-Old Virgin, right? But they are full out comedies. That's what makes them a real joy to watch. So, certainly. Where are you, John Hughes, too?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Apparently there's 400 of them, or to be precise, because we got a more accurate number of 365 million, which would mean 365 John Hughes out there. Now I think only 100 of them are ready to make movies, but there's definitely John Hughes out there that are being. Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you that the Script Doctor and I are just finishing off our second comedy, and we'll tell you how that goes.
I'm so jelly of you.
I'm
Forward to my cameo in it.
Yes, I am actually. We are. Both of us are trying our best to make funny movies, and both of them are very funny.
And that's exactly what is needed right now. So I salute your efforts, and I shall keep fingers and toes crossed.
Right. So if there's any movie producers out there that want to pick up the option on our movies, I'm happy to discuss it with you.
Well, Dr. Sleep asked if there's any words on another Ghostbusters sequel. I think Sony is working on a possible sequel. I think
they're not comedies anymore.
But yeah, I agree with Paul.
They never were.
No, and that's why Ghostbusters 2 always sat weird with people, because they tried to make it more of a comedy and not what it really was.
Many people mistake the first Ghostbusters for a comedy. It isn't. It's
a supernatural thriller.
Funny, but it's not a comedy.
With comedic elements.
It's hilarious.
It
It
is.
may be, but it's not a comedy first and foremost. No one there sat out to like, we're going to make a movie that's funny. We're going to do a comedy. That's what they did with the remake. But I will stand by Ghostbusters 1984 is not a comedy. It is a movie that is funny because the people making it can't help themselves, and that's what they do. But what it is, it's two things. It is an earnest movie about men that lose their jobs and they do a startup and they deal with the bureaucracy that goes into that. That is what it is at its core. On top of that, it is a very earnest telling of the paranormal from two people who really truly believe that stuff. And I'm not saying that they have no reason to, I'm just saying they really believe it. And they put all of that into the movie. Like, for instance, how Bill Murray speaks to Dana when she's possessed. According to demonologists and stuff like that, first, you do not want to deal with anything of the sort. But in the event that you have to, that is exactly what you want to do. That is how you speak to someone possessed. That is how you speak to a demon. So they went through all of the details there. So it is a movie about men taking the risk, doing a startup, risking the house, everything like that, and the paranormal. And on top of that, it is funny because the people can't help themselves. But it is not a comedy. It may be mislabeled such because people confuse, oh, I laugh, it's funny, so it's a comedy. It's
No,
not
I see your point. I mean, Abbott and Costello's a comedy.
Exactly.
Okay,
Dumb and Dumber is a comedy. These are things which are
Correct.
made with the intention, we are now setting out to make a movie that is funny, that's going to make you laugh. They set out to make a movie about entrepreneurs and the paranormal, and they were completely earnest about it. And since they're funny people, it's also a funny movie. But that is coincidental. They didn't set out to
Yeah.
make it funny.
And then the comedy also comes out of
And
reactions
that
and
is
stuff
where
like that, yeah.
and that is where the remake misunderstood the original so completely, because they mistook it for a comedy. Paul Feig did this. He didn't understand that it's not a comedy. He figured, hey, this movie has so many funny people. It's the greatest comedians of the day that set out to make a comedy. No, it wasn't. No, they didn't. That's what he tried to do, and that's why he failed, because he fundamentally misunderstood what the movie was. Namely, not a comedy, but a funny movie.
Sure.
Very important distinction.
And I would say that Ghostbusters has more in common with Mutant Ninja Turtles in that way.
Yes, it does. And that's
Yes.
why Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters Afterlife work better than Ghostbusters 2 and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Because both of those movies went at it with more of the comedic angle as opposed to going at it with the more serious angle and having comedic elements like the other two first films did, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about the premise, and if you play it straight, in many ways, Dr. Strangelove was the same way.
Yes, exactly.
Where
Exactly the same thing. It's
you-
not a comedy. You may laugh.
Yes, I
but
know what
it's
you
not
mean.
a comedy.
I think it's still classified as a comedy, but it's a very different.
It's a misnomer.
Yeah,
It's a movie that makes you laugh, but it's not a comedy. That's kind of like, for instance, the Martian winning like best musical comedy or whatever, like what it was at the Golden Globes, which clearly it wasn't, but they couldn't find anything better to fit it into. And that's kind of the same thing with Ghostbusters and a few other movies. They defy traditional categorization. And then people just see, oh, it makes you laugh, so it must be a comedy when it isn't.
And the big key, well, there's two actual, that's why there's a key master and a gate and the gatekeeper in the movie probably, but there's two key people in making Ghostbusters, and it wasn't Dan Aykroyd is not one of them. Yes, he's a big element, but he doesn't even understand the Ghostbusters that was made. His Ghostbusters in his head is something completely different than what we got. And I think he still obfuscates that with what Ghostbusters is, and because he'll sign off on some of the craziest, stupidest shit. But Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman looked at his phone book of a script that was full of wacky, crazy time travel and all kinds of other elements, and they said, "This is batshit crazy insane. We need to make this a movie about guys who are going into business. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
The business is where the supernatural comedic elements would come out of, and that's why they wanted, you know, strong actors like these guys. And of course, Dan was always going to play a role in that. But that's why I feel that the first film works and Afterlife works so much better than Ghostbusters 2 and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, because Ghostbusters 2 and Frozen Empire both make the mistake of trying to think that, oh, this is a comedy with supernatural elements instead of it's a supernatural elements with comedic moments.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, you've got organic laughs, not from jokes, not that seeing a person turn into a giant statue of a dog or something, or a beast that runs away isn't funny in itself, but it's a different funny from watching Bob Barker choke Adam Sandler on the golf course.
Yes. Well,
so
that scene.
That's a different. See, that's a gag, and you go, that is made to make someone laugh. In Ghostbusters, you don't worry about any of that. You don't purposely make any. You're not purposely making anybody laugh. You're laughing because humans will laugh at somebody's distress.
Right, exactly. Like the terror dogs are not funny. They're scary as fuck. You're laughing because Rick Moranis says, okay, who brought the dog?
That's right.
And then you're laughing in the next scene because the guy says, some guy brought a bed to a party in some apartment.
But Rick Moranis's character wasn't making a joke. He wasn't being ironic. He just didn't know what a dog looked like.
Well, it was just, yeah. You couldn't imagine what it was exactly. Like, well, it was technically a dog. It was a terror dog, but yeah.
But you know, again, he's living in New York, maybe not seeing too many, and this could have been a New York dog, and that's the joke. He's not clever enough to make that joke. So
probably he's also too panicked. I mean, when you are in a state of stress, and if a big monster is looking to eat you, you probably don't have like too much time to think.
Yeah,
right. You're gonna, nice doggy, don't eat me.
Yeah, then that's a juxtaposition joke.
Yeah.
There's only 2 ghosts that are set up to be funny gags. Otherwise, the rest of the ghosts are scary. And that's true, to the point where that fucking cab driver gave me nightmares for like a week. The first time I saw it. Because I'm a little 4 or 5-year-old or whatever seeing that movie. But anyway, Slimer and Stay Puft Marshmallow Man are the only 2 ghosts that are set up for a joke. Right? Like, because you get to Slimer and he's just a disgusting blob and he slimes Bill Murray, right? Like, that's part of the joke. Otherwise, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is literally a visual gag.
Well,
because they're about to be killed by this cartoon character, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a juxtaposition joke. Slimer is an not incidental, kind of an accidental joke, because anyway, I don't get into it too deeply, but I completely agree with your thesis. I just don't know what other category to put. You know,
that's the problem with Ghostbusters, and I think one of the closest movies somebody brought up in the chat would be Scream, because it is so hard to categorize. And the other movie I would bring in there would be like Pulp Fiction, another movie that's so hard to categorize because there's so many comedic elements in them, and they're not stuck in they don't fit into their normal genre, right? Like that's the problem. You never saw either of those?
No.
You never saw Pulp Fiction?
Nope.
I ain't saying you got to see Scream. Fuck Scream. You have got to see Pulp Fiction.
Isn't that the one that has violence and people dying in it?
Doesn't every Tarantino movie?
Yeah, I don't like it. I like Get Shorty. Get Shorty's funny.
Oh my God. Pulp Fiction changed my life.
I hear there's some really gruesome bits in it.
Not really, in comparison to some other stuff, really.
Really? Okay.
If you can stand stuff that's like in Deadpool, then you can definitely stand that. But anyway.
Deadpool is far more, if you ignore the tone, just in terms of like on-screen gore, Deadpool is far worse than anything in Pulp Fiction.
Maybe I will.
But Pulp Fiction treats the subject matter seriously. That's the difference.
Yeah. Isn't that what Harvey Keitel isn't in it?
Yes, he is in it.
Yes,
but here's the thing about Pulp Fiction. If you do ever watch it, you will slowly realize how much of a comedy it really is.
Okay.
Because it's a comedy in a way, but it's not a comedy. It's in the same way that Ghostbusters is. The comedic elements come out of the way that the characters react to the scenes that they're in.
And
Right.
just to close this off, there's that wonderful road movie where the girl wants to go dance in Vegas or something like that. And oh God, they're all in a van. It's not Driving Miss Daisy. It's what's the name of the movie? It's now I see I'm completely gone.
Dance in Vegas.
No, she's yeah, it's a wonderful kind of an indie movie where they all get in a van. You got the cantankerous grandfather.
Little Miss Sunshine?
Little Miss Sunshine, thank you. See, that's a wonderful movie. They're not making that. See, I'll be happy even if I just saw another Little Miss Sunshine.
I think we have a better chance of seeing something like that before some of the other stuff.
Oh,
But yeah,
and
I
I'd be
agree with
happy
you.
to do it. Or
I agree with you, yeah.
Waking Ned Devine. Why?
Mhm.
Let's see, Waking Ned Devine is an absolutely hilarious movie that's played straight.
And Hassan is asking, have you ever seen Walk Hard? Because I brought that up earlier
Yes,
too.
I've seen
Okay,
that.
yeah, that's a
So
great
Waking Ned Devine is a British movie about a guy in a small town who wins a lottery and dies, but someone has to take his place, pretend that he's him.
Oh yeah, I remember that one when I come out. Another one around that same time was The Man Who Sued God with
don't know it.
Oh, you should check that one out.
Okay, but see, that sounds like a comedy premise. Anyways, gentlemen, there you go.
I Dragon Star says the difference
about comedy forever.
The difference between Jar Jar versus R2D2 and C3PO. Yeah, that's another comedy
Good point.
variation.
Super. That is a really, really, really good point where Jar Jar is just trying too hard. Yeah, that's a great point.
Connolly, that's who's in the movie I was trying to think of. Billy Connolly is in that.
Billy Connolly.
Man Who Sued God. It's pretty funny. You should check it out.
Billy
All right.
Connolly is a very funny.
Yeah, and you got a Mr. Tickle Trunk who says, yeah, I think you'll enjoy that one quite a bit.
There's a very funny Billy Connolly movie where he's a nice zombie in a Canadian town.
I don't think I've seen that one.
That's very funny. Really sweet little movie. I think it might even be called Zombie.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Yeah, I like Billy Connolly. Anyway,
yeah, Men in Black 1 had to be played straight or it's not funny.
Yes, that's another movie a lot like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And that's why I said that would have been a natural crossover when they were talking about Men in Black crossing over the 21 Jump Street. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? If anything, it should be Ghostbusters and Men in Black crossing over. That makes more sense.
So, yeah, I love talking about comedy. I wish there was more, but I am trying my best. I'm still writing.
Well,
and you can
tell
you
in script.
Channels.
I used to be a script doctor too, little here and there, but yeah. Anyway, no, just kidding. Anyway, go ahead and get out of here because I know you got to go.
We'll see you. I've already extended but you mentioned
check out Appalling News and call me Chato.
You mentioned comedy, so
you mentioned comedy. So
I know I really wanted to talk to you about that one.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. I love talking about it. See you guys. See you hopefully.
Take care of yourself.
Thanks for joining us. See you Wednesday.
Yeah, because we never did get to talk about that Seinfeld story either. That sucks. But yeah, so let's get back into your guys' super chats. We got Packing Protons who sent in 5 earlier and said the flight of the Navigator spotted over How do you say that one, Andre?
Curitiba.
Okay. Brazil. If you hear Pee Wee laughing, probably.
I don't know. That's exactly how you say it because it's Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese.
Well, you'd know better than I would. Regardless. Patrick Robinson sends in $4.99 and says, I'm taking one for the team and am seeing Borderlands this weekend. Can't be that bad, right? Oh yeah, we forgot to bring this up.
Well, I'll be seeing it myself.
Yeah, I don't plan on it, but I wonder if it's how bad it's gonna flop.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see.
Because I was bringing that up when Jamie Lee Curtis was talking her smack. Again, I don't think she said anything wrong, but I just think she should worry about her own franchises right now.
Yeah, no, the problem was the apology wasn't what she said in the first place.
Yeah. And then, so we'll see how well Borderlands does this weekend, if it'll even be any competition for Deadpool. Robert sends in 5 and says Anthony Mackie is this generation's best actor. I don't know about that, but okay. Watching him pretend to not know how to ride a bike in Twisted Metal was genius. Cut the check, LOL. I mean, I
Twisted
like him,
Metal
and
is also something relatively high up on my list of things I need to see.
yeah, I've heard pretty good things about it. I mean, I like that he's paid his dues. He's been in the industry now for like what, 20 years or so plus, maybe a little less, give or take. But I have heard so many horror stories about him as a person that, yeah, I don't know. I've heard he's kind of a jerk. Not kind of a jerk. He is a jerk. I've heard from more than one person. But yeah. I don't know. I don't think he's that great. But if you do, Robert.
He's all right. He's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be anybody who's going to be a leading man after Captain America or anything.
Well, we shall see.
We shall see, though, yeah. Tommy Reviews sends in 5 and says, Hail Midnight's Edge. I was wondering if Civil War is worth purchasing for 4K. I recently picked up Uwe Boll's 4K of Postal. I forgot how funny it is. Oh, I got that, and I haven't watched it yet.
Postal is a great movie. I don't care what anyone says.
That's the only reason I got it.
2 amazing movies. One of them is Postal, and the other one is Rampage. Now, those are fantastic movies, both of them. As for Civil War, thanks for reminding me. I still have to see that. I really couldn't tell you because I haven't seen
it yet either. I know I heard it didn't get as political as people would have expected it to.
From what I understand, it was more about showing the horror of Civil War and what it actually meant, rather than trying to take any one side. So it is political. It's just not partisan. Which is the big difference. But again, I haven't seen it, so I cannot.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah, so up to you, I guess. I mean, if you have the
it is native 4K. If that answers that question for you, I mean,
yeah, you'll probably have a better, depending on your setup, you'll probably have a better experience seeing it in 4K.
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Either way, so yeah, it's up to you, I guess.
I just looked it up because, I mean, a lot more studios now are doing it, but they used to do a lot of them just 2K up converts because that's the way they finished them because it was cheaper. But no, this is actually a 4K. So go for it.
Yeah.
Maybe some people in the chat can recommend or tell you why you shouldn't watch it, though. Sorry, I couldn't. And sorry, Andre hasn't been able to see it yet either. Packing Proton sends in 10 and says, yeah, I noticed a lot of AI articles, mostly DBZ and Star Trek coming from MSN. This one mentioned Taika Waititi as a possible director and maybe
animated reboot series with Caddy as well, in reference to The Mask.
Oh, Mask.
Yeah, Mask is what he's referring to here.
Again,
I still haven't heard anything. I'm not going to say something hasn't happened, but this certainly has not hit our radar. It hasn't been in any of the major trades. It hasn't been in any of the geek general geek trades either. No, that's
the only thing I got is a giant freaking robot, which I take with a giant freaking grain of salt, and that was over a year ago.
So I haven't seen anything of this. So I'm going to say
now 20 hours ago, Screen Rant dropped a story here. Fan art for showcases.
That's the fan art I was referring to.
Yeah,
the only thing that I can see here is fan art. I don't see anything to indicate that anything like this is happening. You're going to have to link us to this article itself, but I haven't seen any kind of external proof that any of the sort that this is happening.
And I don't think any studio would do this, because basically they're insinuating that they're going to try that it would be, because I think they're even taking it seriously, because I think it's Boss Logic who dropped it. That's why. And yeah, there's no way they would.
That's the fan art. That's the fan art.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah, and he there's no way the studio would go with a darker version of the Mask like that. No way. Not with Jim Carrey. Now I could see them redoing the Mask as a little bit more darker tone like the original comics, but not with Jim Carrey.
Well, if you can do the Crow, you can do the Mask. So I'm not going to rule out that there's nothing there without having seen the article. I'm just saying that until I see more
Oh,
stories.
the article doesn't have
covering it,
anything in it confirming anything, or it just says
and
it's that it's fan.
and I see anyone citing a studio source who's making this. When is it coming out? Who are the people attached? Who are the producers? Until then, I'm going to say it doesn't exist. And the moment we get some information of who is making it, and I mean actual names, then yeah, okay, now it's in development. But until then, this doesn't exist.
Yeah, no. Well, there is a different mask though. It looks like that might be. Oh no, never mind. That's not what this is about. I don't think. Never mind. This is something else.
All right, moving on then. Dr. Longdong sent us a super sticker. Thank you so much for that. Everyone, please smash that like, by the way. And in reference to what I said earlier, Chaotonic says for $5 reads like a Rick and Morty episode. The Rick and Morty writers track again. Yeah, thankfully they've all been fired. I don't think there's a single one left there. Thank God for that.
Well, we'll never know for sure if this is fake or not unless somebody actually confirms one way or the other.
Unless there's one way we will know, and that is if the Doctor Doom story is pretty much the same thing, only with Doctor Doom, then we'll know.
Well, I'm sure they're paying attention to My Time to Shine, and even if it was, they're working on changing that right now.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Doomsday and the new Secret Wars are going to be a complete refresh, or completely.
I hope so, because I do not trust anything they had come up with, because again, all of this was developed during Marvel's creative nadir. So yeah, I don't believe it. Jesus Davila also sent us a super sticker for $1.99. Thank you so much for that. And Packing Protons Wonders for $5. Does Andre know the Ninja Turtles visited Oslo, Norway? Where? When?
How fuck did they get there?
In the cartoon?
I shouldn't ask that question because then I'm going to find out something else about them. I don't
want. Did the live stage show go there in the 90s without me being aware?
They probably took some cowhead there or something. Trust me, it's something stupid.
The answer is I don't know. No, this is news to me. I had no idea. And evidently to Thomas as well. So maybe they did some recent comic or something.
Or did they film one of the sequels there? That's plausible.
What sequence would that have been? I don't remember anything.
I don't know. Maybe there was that one sequence in the first movie when they're rolling down that big ass hill. Do you guys have any big mountains or anything over there like that?
We do.
He'll answer. There's a little delay. You don't have to set another super chat Packing Protons. Yeah. I'm watching chat here.
Yeah, we do have some hills in Norway.
That's what I was wondering if that's maybe now that what he meant. Unless it was just they didn't do the music tour there, obviously, I don't think.
So if so,
I'm pretty sure that was just US and Canada. Yeah, that Yellow Flash says the same thing. Probably. I don't think so. Maybe they they might have done regional ones, but you would have remembered if they'd have done that.
Not necessarily. Here's like the thing: when I was that kid.
Oh, that's true.
At that age, because I was just a kid at the time.
That's right.
And it was like only until later, like, wait, you can actually go to the cinema and see movies. To me, this was a relatively late discovery.
Well, weren't you traveling around a lot at that time too? You said
no, not at that time. But my parents weren't taking me to cinemas and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the first times I remember going to the cinema was basically tricking my granddad to taking me to see actually the second Ninja Turtles movies. Because my parents had offloaded me with my mother's parents, and I was like, everyone seems to be going to the cinema but me. So I asked my granddad, "Can you take me to the cinema to see Turtles 2?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay." And so I went to the cinema to see Turtles 2. I was like, maybe the second or third time in my life I went to the cinema. And it was many years after then until I went to the cinema again. And if there was a musical tour, I wouldn't have known. I would have liked to go, but I wouldn't have known about it.
I did not know that one of your first cinematic experiences was Ninja Turtles Secret.
No, it was.
Learned something new.
My very first cinematic experience was going to see a Norwegian movie that was only released in theaters and then never ever released again because it's based on a book and they only got the rights for a theatrical release, and then it was instantly pulled. It was never released on TV, never on home media, nothing. So it's functionally lost, even though it exists. That would be Cardamom B, if there's any Scandinavians. They made a Scandinavian co-production of that in the 80s. Only shown in theaters, never again. And it was amazing in my recollection. That was the first time I went to cinema. And the second, I believe, was that one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 2.
The Secret of the Use.
Yeah, and Packing Protons says for another $5. Nope. The European Adventures, probably on YouTube. They battled Vikings. Oh,
is this an official thing? Because I don't think I've ever heard of this.
Oh, we have to check that out then. Turtles, the European Adventures.
I like turtles.
Yeah, Tom will have to find that out.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out when I get some time here. Thank you for that, Packing Protons. And that was going off of that one. And then we got Walter Whitewalker, who sends in $2, says, so the new Time Bandits is actually pretty fun. Now, it's funny you ask because I haven't seen it. I am avoiding it because I only like the original and I don't want a movie
I'll
where
check it out.
People... I thought you already saw it.
No, I haven't seen it yet. I've been busy this last week, but I'll check it out now because now I have more time on my calendar since I've finished.
Oh, I thought you had seen it.
No, not yet.
Okay.
I said that I was going to, but I haven't yet.
Well, we actually covered this story last week, I think it was, on Midnight's Edge After Dark, which is another separate channel, guys. If you haven't checked out Midnight's Edge After Dark, please do, because we do stream on that channel as well on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 Central. But yeah, we were talking about a story where Peter Dinklage not only screwed up Snow White, but he screwed up Time Bandits. In fact, there was an actress who came out and said that she was actually trying to get a role in the film, and then all of a sudden they decided they weren't going to be having little people in the movie because of what Peter Dinklage did.
Peter Dinklage canceled little people. How amazing is that?
He literally made it to where now nobody wants to use little people in movies now. And this actress was quite upset about it. But yeah, you should check that story out. We talked about it last week on the show. I'm resistant in checking this out. Even though outside of Marvel stuff, Taika Waititi has been pretty good. I haven't seen all of his stuff yet, but most of the stuff I have seen of
him has been very good.
Yeah, I normally like, and I did like Ragnarok, but I hated Love and Thunder.
I just wish he could have done the Incal, which he was announced to do years ago. Nothing has come of it. That would have been a perfect project for him.
Yeah, another one that he was announced for was Flash Gordon, which I said, yeah, he would probably be good for that, especially if you're going to go for that same vibe as you did with the last film.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. He's gone a little. I have to see Jojo Rabbit and a few of his other movies yet before I say that he's okay outside of Marvel. I don't know. Maybe I'll give this a shot at some point. I'd have to rewatch the original again first, though. It's been a while. So, with that,
we are fully caught up. So, thanks to everyone who is watching here. Do check out. Will there be Toxic Femininity later tonight, Tom?
It sounds like there should be.
Okay, perfect. Then, of course, there may be some video drops in the meantime. If not, there's Mr. H reviews tomorrow, followed by Midnight's Edge After Dark. On Wednesday, I will be on Valiant Renegade stream, watching the Disney earnings call, and then that is going to link directly to here afterwards. We'll be discussing the findings from that. So yeah, check out Valiant Renegade and then Midnight's Edge on Wednesday. And anything else we need to highlight, Tom?
Not that I can think of offhand. I'm sure I'll forget later. Maybe I'll do some Mead Radio. Who knows? Yeah.
And then with that, it is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks
given. Koala, koala, koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koala, koala, koalas in the rain.